I'm going to call the meeting of April 18th of the Solar Implementation Task Force to order, and we'll take a roll call on the video. We have Gavin. Are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I'm on a business trip in Connecticut, incidentally helping solar interconnections for my company. So
Stephen?
Here.
Wendy?
Here.
Charlie?
Here.
And myself here, and Phil is unable to attend, or he may be late. He's just not here yet.
He's got a spot.
Yeah, we've got a spot for him. So we are in session. We have some minutes that Wendy did distribute. I will personally just say I'm kind of out. I did not review them, so I'm not current on those. But if we have a quorum of those who would like to move on them, then let's do it. But I'm personally not ready to move on them.
Neither am I.
Okay, that's two, and there's only three. I guess there were three people who really wanted to. You guys could vote them in. So I think we'll pass for this evening, if that's okay. There just hasn't been a lot of time. So Mary would like to, Mary Hartman, I've got you on the agenda to address the group, and why don't you take it away?
Great.
This pep talk.
Thank you. Dean. I asked Dean to give me some time at the beginning of the meeting because I have to step off for another meeting. So I couldn't wait till the end for public comment, but I just wanted to say a few things. I think this is your last official meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That is correct. We may need some cleanup.
No, that is correct. That is correct. It's our last
Okay.
meeting.
It is our last scheduled meeting.
Okay.
It is our last scheduled meeting.
I just wanted to thank you for the work that you've done. You've been very, very diligent. You've met frequently. You've had some very good conversations. And I know that you're probably a little disappointed that we don't have any solar in the queue to be put up on any sites of municipal land. But I do think that the work that you've done is what moved the article forward for the battery. So as far as addressing solar saturation, I think this committee deserves a lot of credit for that. I think that MCI, the closure of MCI certainly made it more acute, but CMLP and CMLB were already thinking about this. So I really believe that you deserve a lot of credit for that. I hope that you give yourself credit for that. I looked at a draft of your report, and I think it's good. I would just ask that you take a deeper look at some of the reasons why you weren't successful in getting solar in some of the places that it looked kind of obvious that it was the right thing to do. And, I know we have to be diplomatic, but if we're going to make any progress here, we also have to be honest about what are some of the barriers. So I invite you to take a deeper look and a more honest look at what some of those barriers are and bring that to the attention of the select board and CMLP. I assume that you're going to have your report ready for the select board I think I'd certainly wait until after town meeting because we're not going to be thinking about it. And then I'd like to invite you in June sometime to talk to the select board about that, if that works for you. And
That should be fine.
I think it will. So,
Yes.
So that's really all I had to say. Thank you for the work. I think you've really alerted us to the problem of solar saturation. I think we're addressing it. I'm confident that the article at the special town meeting will pass, confident. I'm hopeful, very hopeful that it will pass. We're making headway as far as solving that problem, and you deserve credit for that. And again, I'd really like to see a deeper look at why these feasibility studies have stalled and why some of these sites that seem like no-brainers when you first look at them end up delayed. So I'm inviting you to do that and to bring that to the attention of the select board and the general public. And with that,
Yeah, thanks, Mary. I just want to make one comment about that. We did add a few footnotes to the report as the last gasp edition that's circulated in the last several hours. So you may find some of that has been added to the report. I don't know if it's adequate for your wishes, but we can talk because there's certainly ways to highlight
We should
that.
talk now.
Yeah.
I think we should talk now.
Well, if
Mary's
you want
here.
if you want me to pull up the report and just
No,
point to
no,
those?
I want to hear more about what Mary's thoughts are on this.
Okay,
Because barriers, I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at the word barriers. We could talk about the way the town's organized, the way the town does business, the fact that everybody has a vote, the fact that things are bottom up rather than top down, the fact that the town manager doesn't actively jump on these things and say, we're gonna do this or we're not gonna do this. The fact that Eric doesn't really necessarily have clear direction from the town manager in terms of a path forward. I don't know whether you disagree with that, Eric, but that's the way I see it. There's a lot of stuff that you could get into. And last, there's a barrier that has to do with solar is somewhat of an orphan. It doesn't have a constituency other than everybody loves solar. Sewer, people need sewer pipes. Transmission of electricity, people need that. Wetlands, people now know that they need that. And on and on. I don't know what to say about these barriers. It's an enormous topic. So if we're gonna do more with that, we ought to understand a little bit what we're talking about here before we go off and try to do something. I don't think we should
Well,
just start writing stuff up that we haven't talked about.
yeah, I know. And what you're saying right now is your opinion. I don't know how much of this has been discussed by.
No, it's just my off the top of my head,
It
having
is.
heard you use the word barriers.
Right, and that was actually in the charge to look at barriers. And I think that, it was clearly put there. And the thing that I've learned by watching you work all year and all the hard work that you've done, I'll just tell you what I've learned is that CMLP has done study after study after study and tried to have solar implemented in various times in various places across town. And they've always run into some kind of a barrier. So what I learned is, well, this is a lot harder than I thought. And a lot of the times the problem is us. It's us. It's the people in Concord. We don't want to look at it. We don't want to think about it. We don't want to pay for it. It's us. So I think, and now I'll go off and you haven't, I know you haven't talked about this, but I think we need to think about when we said we wanted to meet that goal, do we really want to cut down trees? Do we really want to look at solar? Do we really want to give up agricultural land? Do we really want to, and the schools, what is the school's commitment to sustainability? And so I guess that would be, just from my observations of the work that you've done, those would be the questions that I would be raising as far as what's our commitment and what can we do about it? And who takes the leadership and what strong recommendations can we be making? So I guess that's what I'm saying. I mean, some of the things that you said, Charlie, I don't really, not really clear I don't understand what you're saying, but I'm just more looking at from what I observed. And I mean, the fact that you didn't get the feasibility study, that's clear. I mean, that to me is, well, why? Why didn't that happen? And so that people know that if we can't meet the goal that we set for ourselves arbitrarily, it's because we don't want to.
Well, I think we have a path forward in here to do the 5 megawatts that we wanted to do.
That's great.
We have a path forward in here. And I
Well,
think that it's going to be incumbent upon the town at this point to figure out, well, what do you do with this?
so one of the things I tried to inject into the recommendations of the report is trying to identify, if we're making a recommendation, who's the responsible entity within the community that would have to take on that recommendation and push it forward. So if it's whatever, whose job is it? If we make a recommendation, whose job is it to follow it, track it, and push it if necessary? And so we've tried to make sure that those things are identified in the recommendations that we are making. Whether or not, the past is prologue to the future, it remains to be seen, because we have some recommendations in there that will test problems that we had to back away from in the past, such as trying to take a small amount of agricultural land. Can we now do it in the new
That's it.
reality if we try to move forward?
Yep.
And we will see. That's
We
something
don't- we don't know,
We
do
don't
we?
know.
It's a good test.
But,
It is a good
but-
test.
you know, it's a good test. But in terms of, in effect, writing a large kind of piece on what are all the things that stopped us particularly from making our desires real.
Yep.
We've got a few paragraphs in there, but they're tucked off in a very late footnote that say why the things we pursued did not happen. And I don't know that we want to expand to say, why can't things in the town happen? You know, I just think that I think that's a little bit, expansive
Okay.
to, we've had this experience. These are the explicit things that occurred that we observed. Does that mean that those things will continue to happen, or will people take note and say maybe they shouldn't happen? We're not sure, but we know that these are the things that we encountered. So
But we also ran out of time.
we also,
I
yeah,
mean,
we
we
also
didn't
covered
really have enough time to
Yeah.
really explore all
Yeah.
the barriers. We
So
really feel like
in,
this.
in the process of trying to do something.
Yep.
We did run into the problems of trying to do something.
Well, and that's one particular area.
Yeah,
that's-
so,
In one sense, you validated the barriers. I
yeah,
hate
Yeah.
to say it, by running into the wall again,
right,
you confirm that they're still there.
right,
And then I'd also say that since that goal was made, the subject of sustainability has taken on much wider role, but it also has taken on multiple flavors. It's not just energy, it's water, it's, agriculture. So there's a rebalancing the town has got to look at when they look at sustainability, and that's the climate committee's
Yeah.
job and role. There may be a point in which a bigger stick has got to be used. And
right,
it may be that maybe the next article is not a bigger battery. It's gonna be, we're not gonna allow development unless they generate as much as they use.
or something.
Basically, a net zero, you have to make a net zero situation out of everything you do, including all the town buildings and town facilities.
Right.
So that there's ways
Yeah.
in which we may need to culturally, administratively, zoning wise, put more push behind it. But before you do that, you gotta make sure that that's gonna be the top priority for any of those developments versus say water storage or traffic or any other components that relate to the overall sustainability of the town. In general, in the industry, there was a big green push and the technologies have been there and people are getting better, but clearly it's not hitting the goal. And the feeling in the industry is a much bigger stick has got to be put in place, and utilities are getting there because they can't do it themselves. The entire development community and the cities have got to do it.
Well, the Inflation Reduction Act is
Right,
more of
right.
a carrot rather than a stick.
Exactly, right.
And maybe carrots aren't enough to pull this over the line. is
That's
what
sort
you're
of where I'm
suggesting.
saying,
Right,
yeah.
right.
So-
yeah.
I don't disagree with anything you said, but I think we have a lot of innocuous stuff in here that needs to get done.
Mhm.
Very innocuous,
Yeah.
including the sites that we've identified.
Mhm.
And the issue isn't whether we need more, to me, whether we need more policies and bigger sticks.
Mhm.
The issue is structural. It's who's gonna do it?
Mhm.
Who's gonna do this?
Right.
Who's gonna do this work? Are we gonna have another committee? I don't think so.
Mhm.
Are we just gonna turn this over to the CAC? I don't think that's necessarily a great idea either.
Mhm.
So we have very specific things in here.
Mhm.
We have staff.
Mhm.
Why can't we do this with the staff we have? There are things in here that say we need to get through these feasibility studies. We need to get, processed this stuff through the CMLP. We need to develop schedules. We need to structure ourselves to get this work done. I don't think there's anything magic here, and I think your
Yeah,
point is
no,
well taken. We didn't have enough time.
I would agree with
But,
that.
at this point, I think we have well-defined deliverables. And you could say, well, we're gonna do management by objectives. You're familiar with that, aren't you, Mary?
Yep.
Management, MBO, you're a corporate type.
I was.
What are Eric's MBOs? What are Carrie's
right.
MBOs? What are your
Well, the
MBOs?
select boards, right?
What are your MBOs? Does it have anything to do with this? Or are we just gonna say, well, woe is us because there's barriers? No, there's stuff to do here that we can do. And that we need to get, that where we need to assign people and get them gold and hold them accountable. Either that or,
There's,
Yeah.
there's a
Give it up.
recommendation. There's a recommendation.
well,
Right.
the things are in here.
Yeah.
They are.
And we can pursue that as a recommendation. If you like that, we can pursue that.
Oh, well, you need to like it. You need to like it. I just want, the only.
I'm gonna speak for the committee. We like
We
it.
like.
I know.
like it.
I know.
We like it.
End of
Everybody raise your
topic.
hand?
You may not, because guess what? The select board is on.
A raise of hands. Do we like this?
We like
Yeah,
it.
we
Let's
like
go
it.
get-
There you go.
They say,
Do it.
this is, the old saying is get shit done. Talk less. Let's have fewer committees. Let's get people gold to do some things. How about the policy on rooftop? Who's gonna write that?
Mhm.
I'm not asking you to answer the question.
But-
I'm not expecting you,
But,
but who's gonna write
but
that?
somehow it has to become a
advanced.
town policy.
There's
The
staff
task
work
force
that
is-
needs to
it's not
get
the
done here.
task force, not gonna
Okay, okay.
implement a town
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah.
Are you glad you raised the issue of barriers?
No, no. I am, because
All right,
I'm
You're gonna
enjoying,
cry uncle now?
I'm enjoying this conversation. See, this is the kind of passion that sometimes is missing from reports that are very polite, and I'm not saying your report was polite, but a little bit more passion, I think would be helpful.
Well, we can put that in here, but I think we need to have some sort of a consensus that this is what we want to say before, we just go off and pen it up. So I think we have that, do we not?
Feels like we have
Feels like
some.
we
Have
have-
that. And
Yeah.
Eric, you may get some stuff dumped on you, but,
It's collaboration. It's select plan with Eric.
I know, but we need a driver outside of, I believe,
Yeah.
we need a driver outside of the light board or light plan to make the stuff
Yeah.
happen, because
Great.
light plan isn't gonna go create policies to put
Yeah.
stuff to do things on roofs,
Yeah, no, agreed.
right? Or
Yeah.
not do things on,
Right,
they're not gonna do
right.
that.
You're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think we did a lot in here to settle issues
Mhm.
that have been going on
Right.
for years. And that cleans up the sort of mess that we have in the way of expectations for
Mm.
what the light plant should do for solar. We're now talking about
Very narrow.
end game.
Yeah.
A few solars
Mhm.
that are ground mounted.
Right.
Done.
Okay, okay.
So,
Well,
Food for
thank
thought.
you.
I don't want to leave you, really, thank you. Thank you for the work you did. I'm looking forward to the final report. I'm looking forward to the conversation that you're going to have with the select board in June. And I got you going, and I'll leave you.
Okay. It doesn't take much to
Much
get
to
us
get-
going.
yeah, and sorry about the monologue. I'm sorry about that, but.
No,
Okay,
But-
thank you again. Okay,
All right.
I've got another.
Mary,
meeting.
you've been a great liaison and a good resource for us, so it's always good to have you, having our back at the
Thank
select board
you.
level, so.
Thank you, Dean. I'll see you in June.
Yep, yes, you will.
See you in June. Looking
Yeah.
forward to it.
Okay. All right, so we're off so Mary's out of here. Time for chair's remarks, which we've already probably drifted past our 10 minutes that we're gonna spend. Mary, that's okay. I just wanna.
That was good, though. That was good.
It was
It's
good.
important.
Yeah, no,
It's
it's
important.
good.
I want to congratulate Wendy on her new role.
Yes,
So
Wendy.
when we
Means I'm
cease
moving on.
functioning, she's
Should have
not.
brought the cake.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's the cake?
When we cease
I got no
functioning,
cake.
Wendy will not stop. She's gonna carry on. She's gonna carry the torch for us at that level, which is important. So that's gonna be good. So thank you. I think we can all, the other thing I wanted to say is this really our final meeting? I think it more or less has to be. I don't see how we kind of clean up and totally finish the report without maybe one more that's just sort of a hand waving at the final
Yeah.
edit or something,
Yeah.
but maybe we get together on Zoom and, and wave at each other. and
I'm
say,
okay with that.
We do something. So I may schedule one more, but
Are you allowed
After
to?
town
Are
meeting.
you allowed to?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm allowed to do.
It's like Cinderella, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. you
It was
know,
end of April, right? So.
End of April. I mean,
technically, end of April.
I would personally prefer to push it past the end of town meeting,
Mhm.
after town meeting.
Yeah.
Just have us
Yeah.
get together and, because, you know, Mary just said, come on back in
June.
June, that'd give us plenty of time to just tidy this up, but this is pretty tidy looking right now, frankly,
Yeah.
in my view.
Yeah.
So in
Um,
essence, the committee remains in effect. Our communication protocols, everything else remains as a committee,
Right,
presumably until after we meet with the selectmen,
Yeah.
and then they decide, yeah. Or,
No, I don't think so.
no, that's what I'm
no,
asking.
we really we would
We're
have to
done.
go and say,
Right, that's what I'm
we'd
asking.
like
Right.
an extension, just so that we
Yeah.
can clean this up or something, and they
Right.
would
Well, you
probably,
get an extension for 1 week.
yeah, or something.
I don't think, no, seriously, I don't think
That's
we
what I'm
should be
like.
extended
No, no,
until
no,
June.
oh, no, no,
No,
just one more meeting. I just want one more,
Right.
meeting,
Okay,
probably
good,
one more
good.
meeting to finish off the
Right.
report. I
Okay.
mean, this has been kind of
Next
flying
week.
around in the last few days at a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
accelerated pace, and I think we
Fine.
can probably tidy it up a little bit more, but it looks pretty good the way it is. So I'll talk to, well, I'll talk to my new select board
No, but
member.
I'm But you know, we could meet next week. Are you?
We could, he's going off to get a new
You're
knee.
like-
he's getting
Well,
a
I
new
think we
knee.
should wait 2 weeks.
Oh,
Yeah.
Get all the
at
edits,
Alright.
everyone's
Yeah.
comments
Yeah.
in.
Yeah,
sorry.
could-
you're having
I could-
surgery.
I could do it in 2 weeks.
yeah, all right.
2 weeks from Wednesday.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
so we can.
Nothing wrong with waiting a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and
Or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no rush. We have
Sure.
the June. I think we have a lot done here. It's not like
Absolutely.
if we're doing major surgery here, we've got problems.
No, I
No,
don't think I don't think we're looking for major surgery here.
Okay,
So, minimal remarks from me. Jason's been really carrying the water
Yeah.
for the new article. I did attend the joint FinCom meeting. There were some robust,
Questions, yeah.
citizen comments from, Dinos and, our new,
Cam,
yeah,
yeah,
and
right.
Cameron McKenna. And that, but otherwise that went well. I do think, Jason did a nice job with a lot of high
Yeah.
levels of, you know, complex information and in a short window. So I think that the challenge really is trying to get all that stuff out there in front of the town meeting and not have it just be a bunch of gobbledygook to people. So
Yeah.
it's a really difficult needle to thread, and Jason's doing a great job with that. So that's my remarks on the joint FinCom meeting. We had a final chair breakfast that was hosted by Henry. He, he basically turned it into a end of year party. We all sat at tables like this and just had chats. I chatted with Nancy Nelson, Isabel Bailey, who's the chair of the pollinator group.
Yeah.
I think they would be a great liaison organization if we do ground mounts to talk to them about pollinators underneath the ground
Yeah,
mounts.
so
So,
for
Volunteer
Eric to
already.
talk to.
good. If
Anyone
if we're-
involved,
I'm saying we as a town.
Who's the we white man?
Yeah, who's the we? Okay, fine.
anyone
And
involved.
all I'm saying is,
I already know her.
yeah,
Yeah.
Isabel, yeah. So, she's a good resource. I also talked to Ed Denardi and said, who's the chair of the, Natural Resources Commission, and said,
Yeah.
we're putting in our report, little heads up, we're coming for some agricultural land that's leased by the Natural Resources Commission to a farmer. So, that just give them a heads up on that. And I did swing by the Natural Resources Office, but Adelia's on vacation this week, so I'll send her an email with the same information as we're finishing up our report here. Since it hasn't been delivered to the select board, it isn't really anybody can see it.
Yeah.
We can make it available, but it's not an official thing yet.
Yeah.
And I need to at least give departments like
Yeah, yeah.
Delia's a heads up. Hey, you're leasing to this farmer, guy needs to be given a few years of notice.
Not until we have the final report
Yeah,
in 3 weeks.
Yeah, a report.
It's
Yeah,
not,
well, I'm giving
not,
her,
no
I think
drafts,
so.
no
No, no.
drafts.
okay,
No,
I'm not.
I'm serious. This should not be leaked out to anybody.
No, but
okay.
you could have set the
Well,
barrier.
but-
I mean, this is one of the things you're gonna run into.
Yeah,
like,
but
what if-
then you need, you can follow the process, give it to selectmen, but they still need input from the departments, right?
I don't know how that's gonna.
How that's gonna
ultimately
happen.
work.
Well,
Because sometimes it goes to the management, which would be the selectmen.
Right,
Then they authorize it to be commented by departments, then those comments are brought back and a final is made.
Okay,
if that's the process here. I don't know
well,
what
it
the
seems like a
process is.
reasonable process, so
Yeah.
I'm not.
What's the process?
So, sometimes I've been not on other committees here, but in some cases, when a report is made, it has to go to the person who authorized it, right? Said, okay, I have a
Select board.
report.
Yeah.
And then if there are other liaisoning departments, it goes to them for comment, and then those
Right,
comments
that's
are
right,
turned
that's right.
back to the authorizing to say the report is complete and, or not, or something is strategically wrong here
Right.
before it becomes record of the concluded
Well,
act.
Mary can say it's complete 3 weeks from now.
She can, yeah.
If we complete it and we submit it and we ask her to say it's complete, at that point, you can do whatever you want as far as I'm concerned.
Sure.
But I don't think it should be sent around, in this.
So
No,
there,
it's
we
not-
shouldn't be giving a heads up that we are about
It's
to
not public.
issue a report with this recommendation.
You can go tell
Just
her, you
give
don't
you a
have to
heads
give,
up.
you don't have to give her the report.
No, I'm not gonna report.
Oh,
I'm just gonna
oh,
give her a
okay,
heads up.
okay, good. You give her a heads up, yeah.
Yeah.
Give her a heads up.
You
This is-
send her an email or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah.
all I was suggesting I was gonna do. I'm gonna send her the
Okay,
Okay,
report.
good, good.
Right.
I was gonna, but I was gonna say, a piece of what we're gonna recommend is this space
Yeah, yeah.
on this
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
that you lease.
Right.
So that's that. Charlie and I sat down with Alan to just understand what we could put in the report for the filter
Okay,
beds.
you did, good.
Yes, we
good.
did, so that he would give us his view of the arc of time,
Formal,
which is,
yeah.
his is very long. His is like a 50-year view of how everything.
And his is interestingly enough, it's the same as it was 15 years ago, to verbatim. Verbatim.
Yeah.
The filter beds came up 15 years ago for this.
Yeah, no, I know they did,
Yeah.
so I'm kind of curious, because in Laura's report, and she talked to him,
Yeah,
my walkaway was fields 2 and 4, I might have it wrong. Solar could be put on, that he agreed to that. Am I missing something, Laura? Isn't that what was in your report?
No, that's what he told me.
Yeah.
I have
that's
it
what
in
he
you-
didn't,
detailed
so-
he
notes.
didn't, he
Yeah,
didn't,
Yeah,
he didn't give up any this time.
You need a letter.
Yeah.
You need
Right?
you need a letter that goes to also to the select board and to the
Yeah,
town manager. Yeah, no problem. Right?
Right. No, we did not get, in our conversation with him, we did
Yeah,
not
yeah,
get, you can
yeah.
have these two. They are in a very different situation due to
yeah,
MCI.
yeah.
They're trying to literally change the licensing for our sewer
Yeah,
with the licensing, and they're gonna merge the two licensings, and they're gonna make that one like a different
Wow.
style, and then we're gonna be allowed to discharge more into the river. So they're gonna be doing it using a different strategy, and we will then get to discharge more into the river. If they can pull off this jujitsu,
yeah.
then the filter beds are free and clear. And he's not gonna want them for at least one.
But he would not make any commitments
Because he doesn't know.
about the, no.
Yeah.
Is that-
The
is something-
MCIs, as far as the two outside filter
Yeah.
beds are concerned.
Yeah.
The MCI thing has no
There's no bearing on
no
that.
bearing on it, and he still
Yeah.
wouldn't, no, he still wouldn't, give in on the outside filter beds.
It was very.
So, okay,
weasel
we
wordy,
we
you
said,
know.
okay,
Yeah,
if that's the
exactly.
way you feel, then we should initiate action to do feasibility studies.
Yeah.
And do soil testing and
Just
develop,
under-
and start
yeah.
developing a design and start,
Yeah.
looking at the financials. Whoa, I may need that. Okay,
Okay.
so
exactly.
we'll wait and see.
Well, it's
Well,
very
I think we
clear,
should
yeah.
talk more about this when we get
Yeah,
to
when we
this.
get.
Right,
that
we get the
report,
report,
yeah,
but
yeah.
anyway, so we met with Alan.
Oh, good. Oh, no,
So that
glad
was,
you did.
well,
Yeah.
we didn't feel it was appropriate to just blast
Yeah, yeah.
stuff into a
Yeah.
report without at least
Right.
having some
Yeah.
feedback as
Yeah.
to what's valid and what.
So I just want to make one comment on your director's report. You mentioned Jason and his presentation.
Yeah.
And I just want to just say that I was just totally pleased that he'd done that kind of job on that presentation, number one. And number two, I think that, the work that he's done and that this light plant has done since Dave left, let's just deal with the elephant in the room, since Dave left, has been, in my opinion, it's like night and day versus what we've
Yes.
experienced for the first, 5 months of our work here?
At
or-
least 5.
So, we had a rough go, and, I think Jason, extremely responsive, awake, prepared, helpful. And I think Laura, I think you have been too, so that's just my minions report. All of that.
I wholeheartely agree with Charlie's comments on that. No question in my mind that this has been like night and day, the difference in the way things have gone. That concludes my comments. And now let's move on to the next agenda item.
Before you do that,
Yeah.
just a question about the FinCom. Were the comments related to the concept of getting a battery or how we implement it, going to phasing?
Okay, so Dinos was fundamentally still pushing for alternative solutions to battery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Switch gear changes, using digital switches as opposed to these switches that require current to or load to in order to function, and just go to some more solid state technology and deploy that, and then you don't need that. You get then you get your 1 megawatt back.
Right.
And you know, Cameron McKenna was basically really questioning the financial modeling that was done.
Right.
He was not holding back, you know.
And Jason did a good job addressing Dino's original question,
Yeah.
which is the use of much larger discount. He put in a whole new table of, he
Yeah,
modeled it from, you know,
Right.
3.5% to 4% interest up to 12.
discount rates
And
up
then
to
Cameron
12.
said it should
Yeah.
be even higher than that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
How
so,
far you can
Crazy.
put-
Yeah.
okay. No, I just didn't know
Yeah.
if you were getting comments back saying, you know, we don't understand battery, it doesn't make sense to us. any
no,
of that,
no,
No,
or It
it's
we're
was,
getting that,
right.
no.
A lot of this is really complicated, and
Right.
you
No,
gotta
no,
do this at
that's-
town meeting.
Yeah.
How is this gonna
Yeah.
go?
Okay.
But Jason did a great job.
He did a great
He
job,
really did.
but it is a very, it's a gnarly space to be explaining
Yeah,
to
right.
people. And, you know, I
Engineering, yeah.
have a regular relationship with a farmer here in town that I saw him this morning, just out walking my dogs. And he's like, we're spending $10 million on this. And I'm like, you're talking to the right guy. And I talked him down out of his tree, but
Yeah.
he was very concerned.
Yeah,
Like, what's the
yeah.
town going off half-cock buying batteries for? Why don't we just
Yeah.
give it
Yeah.
back to the wider grid? If we have extra, let's just give it away, you know, get rid of it.
Right.
I'm like, well, yes and
Right.
no.
Right.
Yes
Yeah.
and no. So
Yeah.
it's a challenge for, we'll just call it the man on the street
Yeah.
to come in
Yeah.
cold and just
And
say,
try to
we're spending
understand.
$10 million on what? I mean, you know, seems like a lot. Seems like a big
Okay.
ask.
The other one I noticed in the description that was put in the warrant
Yeah.
was the narrative.
Yeah.
That said that there was a 30 megawatt hour sustainability goal that this supports.
60.
60.
Yeah.
Right, because
That-
we never talked about that here.
Because
That's-
that wasn't, we did it very early. in
It-
the-
it's
That
the-
wasn't really,
Yeah,
our-
that's
that wasn't really
that's the
part of our
battery.
The
charge.
battery.
No, I know,
Yeah.
it's, you know,
We-
okay,
we
man on the
don't-
street here.
Yeah.
And even though I was in the committee, maybe I was asleep that day.
No,
But it seemed like there was another goal that was put up as justification. that-
Right.
That,
It's a
it's
side.
fine, I just didn't know
Yeah.
in its context.
We didn't spend a lot of time on the solar task force talking about the battery goal.
Right.
We just talked about battery as a support
yeah,
mechanism that would
okay.
help,
That's
you know,
all.
balance and do other
But we
things,
did-
but we didn't really focus on that goal.
Okay.
Because we really weren't focused on batteries per se.
Right, yeah.
But Harlan Reed asked a very interesting question
Mhm,
at the finance committee meeting. She asked the question, well, this is 15 megawatt hours
Right.
and our goal is 60. Does that mean we have to spend, you know, $40 million on batteries?
Right.
Right,
And Brian kind of deflected that and said, we're not gonna buy batteries just to buy batteries. We're gonna buy batteries if we need them. We're gonna buy batteries if they make sense. And if they make sense for the ratepayer, we're not gonna
Yeah.
just do something
So-
just
Yeah.
because it's written on a report somewhere.
substitute the word solar for battery,
Right.
and is that statement consistent?
Well, I think this goes back to climate.
Well,
action.
the same
I think
applies
it's
to
just
solar.
saying
I know
that-
what I'm saying, that's what I'm
It
saying,
Yeah.
it's all,
The
you know,
goal.
there's a goal.
Yeah,
And there's a logical way that
Right.
we've set out, and Charlie's report very clearly says there are steps, ways, right? Right, but it's not, there are steps, and if it doesn't make sense or it's not
Right.
achievable,
right.
we're not gonna arbitrarily head off,
Right.
and like,
That's
at least
right.
the battery's not gonna
Right.
arbitrarily head off in that way.
Right,
Right, okay,
We
that's all,
talked early on
simple
whether,
statement, simple.
yeah,
we
Yeah.
did talk about that goal early on in this committee,
Okay.
because I remember asking that question, are we trying to address battery? Because we're
Right.
gonna talk about battery, but
Yeah.
it's really only in the context of supporting
Right, yeah,
solar,
okay,
yeah.
right?
okay,
So,
sorry,
yeah.
man on the street's getting smarter here, okay.
All righty. Next up on our agenda, I believe, is just a quick update on the feasibility studies that, Phil's on the,
Oh,
just
Only
let it
one-
be.
only
let it
one
be
feas-
identified that
only one
Phil's on the call now.
Just
So
one
Phil's doing it.
feasibility study, just the landfill.
Yeah, sorry, feasibility study on the landfill. We're no longer
Yeah,
pursuing
yeah.
a feasibility study on the roof. So, Jason, if you could give us, or Laura, if you could give us an update on that, that'd be great.
Jason, would you want me to do that, or would you like to take that?
Yes, no, you can do it. Thank you.
Okay, so, TRC,
Jason there?
He is,
Yeah, I
there.
didn't realize he was there
he is
He's
in
on
the
a camera,
meeting,
but
but he's
he's-
somehow
Oh.
not on the screen. I don't know why.
TRC is underway. They've got all the documentation and they're doing their work. We got our first bill from them for about $2,700. And we are still, on track, to receive the report. I don't remember the exact date, but it was basically 6 weeks from when they started, which was about a week or a week and a half ago. So, we may get it earlier. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
yeah,
can.
yeah.
yeah.
We can, no problem.
Okay,
So
sorry.
when's that, is that before the June report? Like 5 weeks would be what? End of
Five
May?
weeks, like
End of May.
end of May-ish.
Yeah.
End of May, okay,
Mid, late,
so-
late May. Is that when you expected?
They're just gonna do it according to their schedule, right? And that's
Well, I said they gave him 6 weeks, so.
good for us.
I'm hoping it may come in a little bit earlier, but they were contractually obligated to provide the deliverables within the 6-week time frame.
Okay,
We don't have any information to report yet. They're not, disseminating anything about what they're finding. But
but
we know
they
they're working.
they have adequate access to the geophysical information that's, on file, either at the DEP or in the Concord files or whatever. I remember having a conversation about that, and that our files are somewhat, lacking in terms of their completeness. But do they have to go to the DEP, or where do they get
Yes,
the rest?
so
of the
they were
file?
able to get the files electronically from the DEP.
Oh, great, that's great, okay.
So they should have everything. It's comprehensive.
Okay, good.
Great.
Well, that's good news. That's a great report. Okay. And that's the last report of that we will get as a committee, I suspect.
Right, I know.
Trying
to get you, because there's other people on.
I know there are other
Wow.
people who are on, but they're
Yeah.
not on the view that
Well,
we see on the big kiosk.
We don't know who's on.
Well,
This is
Oh.
the new, yeah.
Let's see.
Bill is on, Bill's on, Bob Grom is on, Jason's
Chris Gray,
on.
we don't know who that is,
Yeah,
but he's on.
Yeah,
Eric Sims.
not sure why this is, Windows is just providing us with a different way of seeing the world. I'm not sure why, but
Okay, but it says there's 9 participants, so.
yeah, I don't know.
Okay, good.
Oh, if you click on it,
What's
you'll
next?
probably get the list. right.
The reason might be that we're only viewing for some reason people who have their camera on.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's what it is. If people don't have their camera on, then you shouldn't be able to see them.
Well, it's not that. We don't even
There
get the
is-
little black box that says that they're
There
there.
are
So
List of
Yeah.
participants.
Yeah.
doesn't
There are
really
only a few
matter.
of them.
I don't think it
No,
really
it
matters.
might be
Okay,
a
let's
news-
go.
Well, okay. Next item on the agenda is kind of the big ticket item here, and that is discuss the report that Charlie has distributed a few times at this point. It's been around a couple times, but I think we're at the last. So I'm gonna try to share my screen and put the report up for the room here, and everybody should be able to see it and follow along. Where's my share screen? I'm disabled. Eric, can you help me out here?
That's right. What a man.
Should be able to. That's better. Okay, very good. This is the one. Okay, here we go.
Okay, a couple things. I think we ought to go through each block and everybody who has something to say about the block, say it, and we'll get through it before we move to the next block. Because jumping around is just totally
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I think we've already seen the prologue. I'm not sure we need to review that again unless somebody feels strongly about that. It's kind of, boilerplate stuff.
The only thing I would say is our charter says we're done by April, right? It's not by town meeting.
Right.
So that very last complete by town meeting, it should be complete by April.
Charlie. sent
Where's
you a-
that? Where's?
The task force has
The
been in
task
place.
force has
since
been in place
The
since
last
August
sentence in the
and
prologue.
Oh, by April.
Yeah, that's just what's in the charter. That's all.
Right.
You did a good job putting all the other charter stuff
Okay,
in there.
we
though.
don't want to have town meeting when it's just April 2020. Okay.
Right.
So, I also added this thing on some
This is helpful.
key terms. I
Yeah.
got a little bit lazy about it. I didn't want to, I mean, I could have put more stuff in there, like, I don't know,
The only one
more
I
technical stuff, but
Whatever.
yeah.
sent you some sort of graphical or some word edit pieces.
like, what were they?
No, just in like the battery storage, you jump right into, I think you may want to separate how you rate a battery storage for capacity first and then its duration.
Oh,
It's just, you combined it together and it got a little confusing for me, but
I tried to simplify it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Did anything I say here, was anything I said here wrong?
no, the only one it got a little confusing was your two MW by four MW. I wasn't sure if you wanted to put something that says that equals a total amount of 8 MW power, something like that. It's how that.
Well,
calculates.
why don't we just do this? Why don't you just send me what you did?
I did.
And-
I sent right
Okay,
before the meeting, so you can see it from
from
there.
Steve.
Um,
Yeah, I don't want to go into a big
No,
treatise on
no.
batteries.
Yeah,
no, the,
We use, yeah,
do we know what the CMLP total load demand is under energy demand? Do we have I mean.
40, max of 40
Max
megawatts.
40, but what's our average running?
I think it's
Why
like
don't we,
20.
why don't we let Laura or Jason
right.
answer that question, because we're just,
Laura,
I'm
it's
just
really,
going by Laura's report.
it's sort of just a context. We know 40 is the maximum we can be provided, but what are we normally running? What's our range, what's our high, what's our low, just for context?
Well,
Against
actually,
40.
Eversource is contractually obligated to provide us our system needs up to 60 megawatts, not 40.
Okay.
As
We've
much
never
as
hit
Yeah.
60.
contractually.
But that is that's the contractual obligation. And then the next question is, what is our average?
Yeah, what's our, just, again, man on the street, Concord uses X amount on, between
average.
X and this amount on a regular basis? I mean, are we coming anywhere near 40? Are we dropping, are we averaging 20 of the 60? Our demand fluctuates between 25 and 2? Or, I mean, is there a way to give someone on the street some idea of just as context?
Do we need to?
You need to.
Do we
I
need
don't
to
know.
do that?
I don't know.
Not sure we do.
Cause
Okay.
you're really just trying to
It
get.
does
So
change
I think,
over,
by the way, the 40 megawatts, that was a shorthand way of saying that we're not gonna really, we don't have a demand for more than 40
Right.
at any given point in time. And that's based on Laura's report.
Right.
Now, the way I stated it is more of a man on the street way to say it.
Right, the reason I'm asking is, there's a solar goal with a
Right.
number, there's
20.
a town provide number. How much we actually use in here?
Right.
so our maximum, we have in the past used 45 back in 2006. Our max in the last 3 years has been 40 megawatts, 39 and 38, so it's still dropping.
Right,
But somewhere around that average. And if you would like the average, I can tell you that.
It's like 20.
No, it's like close to 40.
It's
No,
actually
it's 20.
lower. It's about 20 is not far off. It's a little less than that these days. It's closer to 18 to 19.
18 to 19, yeah.
so that's our average, right? And,
That's the average. Yep.
yeah,
And we,
that's all, I'm just trying to get,
Yeah, yeah.
somewhere, where's the center line in the road before we go off one way or the other, that's all,
so
that's all
it
it
puts
is.
the 20 megawatt goal in context.
That's right,
That's
because
huge.
if it's
I mean,
20
that's
megawatts,
gigantic.
our entire average demand,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
That's,
mean, that's
yeah.
like huge.
that's an important number. Okay.
Well, and
That's
yeah,
why, I said at the beginning of this, I really think we need to examine the goals, because back when that 20 megawatts was first proposed,
we'll get to that. It's
Right,
coming.
well, because
Yeah.
It's coming next.
my next comment
the
is,
load was like 40 or 45 megawatts, right? The max.
yeah,
Well, you haven't seen 45 in years, though, in a few years,
Correct.
right?
right,
Right.
so
So
it's
things
just
have
contextual.
changed, right?
Okay, I'll add that.
Right, because my next comment is, you need a definition for solar saturation.
Oh, Yeah, that's actually a good.
Solar
point.
saturation is a function of how much battery you have.
No,
Well-
it's the issue that the battery is
It-
attempting to solve that's preventing us from doing more solar.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
you have the grid stability. It's all
Solar
it's driving
saturation
at.
would be, under this model, would probably be what? At least
Well, let's see
20,
that.
wouldn't it?
Solar saturation is a condition when all the solar generation in the town, both public and private, comes
Exceed.
close to or exceeding the total
Right.
energy demand of the system. Right? This condition endangers the system unless measures are in place to either export the excess or store it with batteries within the system. If neither of these is done, then CMIP must proactively limit solar use and development, which is connected to the system to protect the system's reliability. That
Or-
gives you the
That's your
justification.
paragraph that you'd like to
Right,
see
right.
added.
That-
Oh, is that something you wrote up?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
so-
forward it.
so
Oh,
the
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah,
Good.
I'm sending it to you. That's what
Okay, great,
I sent it to you, but I'm just saying that was a key point.
No, it's very
that-
Yeah,
So
I
what
think
is solar saturation? Well, let's do that.
But the
Yeah.
only thing I would also add to that is it's worth noting that it's very variable.
Oh,
Like the
yeah,
demand.
The
over-
demand,
yeah,
right,
it's
yeah.
seasonal,
Well,
et cetera, et
that
cetera.
variability was
Yeah.
part of the electric demand, that
Yeah, yeah,
here's our
yeah,
average,
yeah.
here's our high, here's our low,
Yeah,
it varies a
no, that's
lot.
good. Yeah,
But the solar I'm more concerned about what's gonna stop us from doing more solar.
So saturation is really a function of the balance.
Yeah.
And when we have more solar, then we really have total
Yeah.
demand.
Right, yeah, but,
That's-
Well, 20, you'd be fully saturated at 20, wouldn't you?
Right.
You would-
Yeah.
But-
Oh,
but-
yeah.
yeah,
the point
Because you
is,
don't need any more generation, that you don't need any more power than 20.
right, yeah,
So you're saturated at 20.
right, so,
Well,
why
keep
would-
in mind that you're talking about nameplate capacity, right? The,
right, right.
Well,
capacity
I'm
factor.
joking a little bit
right,
here.
well, I'm
Oh,
trying
but
to
the,
do.
cap- the average
context
capacity
of the
factor
problem.
Yeah,
for
Pardon
PPAs,
pardon me?
the average
Sorry, Lauren.
capacity factor for PPAs is around, 17%.
That low,
Reduce it,
I would
yeah.
have thought it would be like 25. No, it's
No,
17.
it's
That's-
25 is
17
the
is what?
maximum you see during the sunniest month.
Okay.
How much?
So if you have a nameplate of 50, you're only gonna get 17 on average, you're only gonna get 17 on a sunny day.
Oh, we don't want to look at nameplate. We want to look at,
No.
we want to look at,
17%.
okay.
But so,
at production, at what comes out.
Yeah, so if you had a nameplate of 100,
Right.
what's gonna come out is 17 megawatts per Laura's comment here.
But I think for solar saturation purposes, we want to look at output.
I understand.
We don't wanna look
But-
at
but then
yield.
then it also says the goal is written as nameplate,
Right, yes,
It is, yeah, right.
I think it's written as nameplate.
It is written,
so
Yeah.
then that should be included in the report too, because it's a context of what the goal is.
Right.
Should put a little note that says 20 megawatts nameplate
Capacity.
capacity,
Right,
and that on average you
Well,
only get
20
seven.
it wouldn't be 20 megawatts nameplate, because 20 megawatts is what the demand is. It's the full blown demand, average demand is 20.
No, I know, but that would.
So
we
it's not,
jumped-
it's,
we jumped off that comment back to how we defining the goal. If our
Yeah.
if our team goal was 20 megawatts nameplate
yep,
versus delivered.
it's 20 megawatts of nameplate.
yeah. that's
Right.
what it is. Anyway,
I'm-
we're all
But
agreed.
solar
with that.
saturation is different than
Oh, no,
that.
I'm just trying to put
Okay.
brackets
Right,
around
yeah.
the terms and numbers we're using so
Right.
someone can follow.
Yeah.
Right.
See, yeah, we're gonna be very careful. We don't
I don't want to make it too complicated.
roll
Yeah,
over
because
into
that's-
stuff
yeah,
that is
it-
not relevant, right?
Okay, well,
But that's still relevant. I mean,
Yeah,
what
the saturation-
saturation
Well, we'll
is.
see. I'll look your
Yeah.
thing over. Yeah.
yeah, right.
And there's a small typo in the, like, hour to hour under the electric demand load.
Yeah, hour to how, hour to
Yeah, it's hour
hour.
to hour. It's
Yeah.
a small one since you're in that
Yeah.
area.
Well, it's solar saturation defined on Wikipedia and all this kind of stuff. I mean,
Well, I'm trying to put it in context of why was the battery being proposed? Why do we keep talking about batteries?
Sure,
That's all.
I think it's important to have a bullet and terms
Yeah.
defined.
well,
Solar
I'll
saturation
do
is
that,
key-
but
key
yeah, but
point.
we probably ought to start with whatever the industry definition is.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
All right. All right, now we're into the
Finding-
basic findings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
So why don't we go by paragraph? And, I mean, we only have, it's 7:20.
Right,
I don't have a lot of
We
comments.
can't,
I
Minor
just said
little word.
issues.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have any comments on the goals, the findings.
Right.
Other than a couple of, in my stuff,
You don't?
just a couple of not typos, but just sort of maybe a few more words might help carry the meeting. It's what you understand because you know it so well.
Right.
I just put a few more words so that the man on the street might understand a little better.
So you gonna send that to me?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
It's already in your email. I sent it
Nice.
before the meeting.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I copied you, Charlie, just for record, so you.
You copied Dean, you mean?
Dean, sorry,
All right.
copied both of you, but
All
not.
right, yeah, I didn't.
Charlie 1 and Charlie 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the one thing that I caught, and it might be going back to where we were talking about this left the debt. The paragraph that says this left the task force with diminished scope. We make
Page you
reference,
on, where
I'm
are you?
actually on the same page. It's the right below it's the second paragraph under findings and
Yep.
recommendations. We make reference to 4.5 megawatts of ground mount. It's actually 5. With all your 4 sites, it's really 5.
Is it?
Yeah, and you actually correctly quoted 5 later, but it's 5, so.
Oh, it
that
is
makes
5.
your-
It is 5, yeah.
So it makes your in-town solar to 14. And I guess this is where I was, when we get to recommendations, for me, I want us to say something about, should that be the goal?
Should that be the goal?
Should that, I mean, so we have, in our charter, we are asked to assess the 20 megawatt goal. Right, at this point in time, given the land that we know and own, would it be a recommendation to shoot for 20 when we know we can only do 14?
You
I
still shoot for
think
20.
I think this is placed in italic type to
Yeah.
sort of say, this is all we can do. Maybe
Right.
the words aren't clear
Yeah.
enough, but I think
Yeah.
that's the goal
Well,
of this.
it's all we can do.
italicized.
It's
Yeah,
all we
yeah,
can
I
do
just-
under current
Current
Right.
conditions.
political, conditions.
Right, so
I
I
would
guess
say.
my question, I just want to be explicit, the goal is 20. Should we change the goal? Does this committee have a recommendation
I-
back to the
well,
client action?
I don't
Committee
think so.
to
Think,
assess the goal?
Wendy, it says, we do not think there are a sufficient number of appropriately sized sites to meet the 20 megawatt goal. And then it
Okay.
goes on to say, this is how much we can get,
Do we wanna-
13 and a half or
do we
But it
14.
wanna
doesn't
ask
mean
the
we have to
client?
change the goal.
Well, and I.
Goal
and
is
I'm
still the
asking-
goal.
But should it be? And maybe
Well,
it's just a
okay,
question
look,
to the
what if we,
climate
what if
action
we, what if
committee.
we went and got the okay to do all the Amendalia land?
Yeah, we were just asked to assess the goal. So I'm just saying, do we need to make a statement about the goal? I think later on, you're gonna
We
come back.
were
and
asked to
say-
assess the goal. Is that in the chart?
It's in the charter,
Yeah.
yeah. To reassess, to evaluate the feasibility of exceeding goal and make a recommendation if we
it's
can.
achievable.
And actually, I'm not obsessing about this right here, but I
Okay,
just
Okay,
want
my
us to be
assessment is we
clear.
leave the goal the way it is. Because all we know is what we can do at this point in time.
I'm with you, I'm with
I
you.
wouldn't put a collar on what we might be able to do in the
So
future.
later, when you talk about MCI, I just think we should make a statement that says at this time, we're not,
Yeah,
I just don't, we're not suggesting we can meet the 20 megawatt goal at this time.
That's what it says.
It's
Or
literally
ever.
literally the
But that's what
sentence
this
is,
Right.
says.
do not think there are sufficient number of sites that to meet the
So-
20 megawatt goal.
So, okay, maybe I just think we should send a message to the Client Action Committee that it should be evaluated. I think there should be
Well, I
evaluated.
don't know that we should. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think that we're pretty clear in here that we're testing the waters on some stuff that's never been tested. And we'd like to go to town meeting with this Burke land
Right.
and test that out. And
I'm not
if,
disagreeing with that. I'm just,
Yeah, but-
but even
but-
with Burke, you're only at
Right.
14.
Right,
got
and then,
6
but
megawatts
then
to
you
give up.
also have the future.
you have
of
MCI,
rooftop,
you
which
have
is another
2229.
Yeah, well, and we haven't talked about that
Well,
yet,
it's
so.
it's on the
fine.
detailed
I
list
get
that
it. I
these
get it.
rooftops exist in the town, and as the town moves forward, now it may
Yeah.
never get there by 2030.
right.
Well,
But
that's
those
part
roofs
of
are
the
gonna
goal.
be
Yeah.
replaced over time, or those buildings are gonna be
Yeah,
replaced over
That's true.
time.
Like it,
And
I
then
get
there's
it. Yeah.
opportunities for solar, so are
let's
those
just-
extra
yeah.
3?
And we say also here that we might be able to get more.
You
Yeah.
might,
Right.
yeah.
So
So,
I advocate just leave the goal. Just-
yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine. I'm
and-
just,
and
I'll
to
ask
the
Eric
point
that
is,
he should
yeah, right
consider
now
it
we-
later.
No, I don't think anybody should consider it. I don't think we should give it to the CAC to consider it.
No, I'm not. I'm saying leave it as it is. And I'm
Right.
separately gonna ask Eric, when he reevaluates the client action goal, that's something that should be looked at, just like.
As a member of the
16
select board,
megawatt
you're gonna
hour.
ask, that's okay.
Well, that's okay.
In your
But I
new,
just,
in your new.
Yeah, right.
role,
With your
yeah.
new hat.
it'll cost us 40.
You knew how you could do it, you knew how you could do anything you want. Okay, let's keep
But
going.
it's-
Next.
But it also might be, I'll hop in here with for the climate action committee perspective. Yeah, I think maybe it's something to deliberate. There are so many changing circumstances, maybe increased electrification of the heat pumps, increased demand with EVs, maybe with these sites in 20 years,
Yeah,
if the solar panels are good enough, if the solar panels are good enough in 20 years, these could be the sites, and we just
That's blowing past
add
these buildings.
more efficient solar on them. We could make it like that.
But you don't, do you believe we need to reevaluate whether that's the right number?
Not at this time, no. I think that's
Okay,
a later
good.
discussion.
Let's just leave it alone.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, all right. All right.
All right, so let's keep going now that we've had so much fun with that.
Well, it's important.
No, it is important. It is. It's important stuff. Yeah, it's an important point.
Yeah.
Also, one of the disappointing aspects of the inability to gain closure on the two sites, blah, blah, blah. In both cases, town was unable to complete, I know there's some issues about this, complete the required feasibility analyses prior to our town meeting deadline. However, these two sites, which total 2 megawatts of capacity, I think this is something you wanted, Gavin, should be high priority for funding and development in the next phase of the town's efforts. Now, I didn't say what the next phase was or when it would be, but, I think it's clear that this is kind of high on the list.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I, made some comments on delays in the footnote, but I got some comments from Jason.
So,
About this.
Jason, I would like you to get some airtime on you, because you sent an email, and I think it's important that you get your voice heard. I don't want it to be just swept under the rug. You're concerned that this is sort of casting the light plant in a negative light, or somehow just give us your feedback here.
It's just not
Where
like
you're-
delays.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can't turn on my video. It says the host has prevented that. So
sure.
I don't know
I'm
if-
sure Eric has some rights here that we can.
No,
That just happened to me too. It's not letting me show video.
none of that web.
I'm not sure why that is.
So we have this kind of unusual display here in the room, which is if your video isn't turned on, it doesn't even show that you're on the meeting.
But this was happening during the public meeting too. People were commenting, but they weren't allowed to.
So you're all showing up on our personal computers, but you're not showing up on the room computer, which is
Yeah.
being displayed for some reason, and
So Eric, when you go to security, does it say that it's not allowing people to show their video?
the only two that are checked, oh, wait a minute, so. Meaning start video?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
There you are.
Sorry,
There
Jason.
that might have been, apologies,
Yeah.
that was
Well,
turned off.
could we
Okay.
also stick to these paragraphs without getting all, how were you trying to do? You're trying to,
You're
Oh,
talking
no,
about
I'm
Jason's
just
comment.
asking
Okay.
Jason to weigh in. He sent
Okay,
an
good.
email.
All
I'd
right.
like to have him get. some
Yeah,
good
no, I
time.
appreciate it. Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the language. It was on page, well, there was in the beginning and then here we go.
Well, I
Um,
thought that the disappointing aspects and we were unable to, I thought that we were kind of at the juncture where maybe you'd want to make
Yeah,
your
no,
comments
no.
about. Yeah,
Yeah, I think the phrasing and I actually appreciate Charlie's response because I concede that I'm not really aware of or in control of what was happening prior to January, but I think the language says something to the effect of the CMLP delayed the technical feasibility analysis until it was too late to include this opportunity. And so without any context, it's unclear if CMLP delayed that strategically due to, partnerships with existing vendors who control the site at the landfill, or because they didn't want to do this. Like it's just unclear. So if
it is
it was also unclear to us when it was happening.
Exactly.
I know
To
we're
be-
all doing a little bit of forensic analysis at the
To,
light plant sometimes.
To be frank about that, this committee literally took a vote sometime, I believe in late October. I have to go back through the minutes, but late October to divorce the extended expansion of the landfill from anything that had to do with Kearsarge. We want to move
Right.
forward and we want it as a segregated, separate
Yeah.
project. And Dave continued to talk to Kearsarge about what it would cost and how much they could do and what they would do. And so it stayed in this kind of merged mode and we never really got going on a segregated
You're
project.
missing one key
Yeah,
piece of this though.
Yeah,
At the time that, and I know this, something that you were pressing Wendy to separate them out, the
Yeah.
time that they were separated out, We also provided Dave with a very explicit list of the requirements that we wanted to have the light plant meet for us in the way of a technical analysis of the landfill site. It had to do with its size, it had to do with its yield, it had to do with its uplift, it had to do with feasibility relative to,
The mounting
you know,
structures. or-
mounting structure and problems with the stuff sliding down the hill and so forth. There were six or seven pretty well crafted bullets. And that just got blown off. And, you know, we'd ask every week, every 2 weeks when we met, we would ask about this and, well, we're working with Kearsarge and we're trying to, they're gonna give us input on all this stuff. They're gonna evaluate this for us. Those were the words. You go back and listen to the tapes, those were the words. And every week it was the same, and every week there was not a shred of paper produced that would have given us any hint as to anything that would have had a material benefit to the cause. There was nothing. So you know, I guess the comments I made earlier were to kind of distinguish that process from the one that you've been a part of since you joined the light plant, or since you became acting director.
Yeah,
So
understood.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the way we've said this. Question is whether we should say anything about it is another, I suppose isn't it another question?
Well, it's, we also got, and she's off the call, but we got a fair amount of pressure from Mary to put into the
Detail,
report
right.
Right, I heard
some
that, yeah.
of the
Yeah.
obstacles.
Right.
And so I kind of was hesitant to put them in at all. But in the end, I said, let's put them at the end, like a footnote, here's what happened. And that's where this footnote 2, which occurs in this paragraph, ends up at the back of the report. I think it's in this paragraph, maybe.
We can also say
Yeah.
that we were asked at least 3 times,
Yeah. What,
at least 3 times with increasing sense of,
urgency or whatever, yeah.
well, I can go over that if you
Yeah,
want, but yeah, it's but whether we need to say anything, I guess, is really up to this committee to decide and
What do you think about those paragraphs?
Well, I'm just reading for the first time.
the footnote,
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, this just came today, right?
Yeah.
So this is as far as the CML.
this was added after the last,
Right,
you
Yeah, we
know,
just
the
got it
last
tomorrow.
recommendation
Yeah.
yeah.
to be more explicit, so.
Yeah. Mary took me aside at the chair's breakfast and asked for this at the chair's
Yeah.
breakfast. Hey, I really need you guys to. I'm like, okay.
Mary took me aside at the fundraiser for,
A candidate or whatever.
yeah,
Simon.
Okay.
for our rep.
Simon Cataldo.
Yeah, Simon Cataldo.
There.
And then I got an email on it, so this is not like,
Okay. So I didn't hear Jason's email or wasn't.
Well,
on that,
it was
so-
related to me and Charlie mostly.
Yeah, no, which is fine. The question is there something here in the report that
Well,
needs to be
I'm
clarified?
sensitive to the fact that, you don't want to be, so to speak, throwing the light plant
Right,
under the
it's
bus.
Right,
But to a degree, Dave slow rolled this. Let's just call it what it
Yeah.
is. He slow rolled it. And as a result, we were not in a position to get to the
yeah,
meeting. We were in a position to get to the town meeting with a valid
Yeah.
feasibility situation. So, and Jason, you've done everything you can, having jumped in. You've
Yeah.
absolutely done everything you can, but it wasn't not enough to get to town meeting.
well, you can't make up lost
I
ground.
You
understand.
can't, you couldn't make up the lost ground.
But then you go to the next paragraph and you
Yeah.
succeeded at something.
Yeah, so you
So-
succeeded.
so
It's
this-
offset by the good news.
Right.
This was by and large, several months worth of watching a slow motion of a car crash. You know what's gonna happen and you just keep watching it and, and nothing we could do about it.
Oh, I see this says for review boys.
Jason, does that help you out? To understand what our,
Yeah, well,
what's
I
going
think
on
even
here?
your message clarified. I'm reading the footnote now for the first time, so I haven't really read that. I don't know if it's worth just clarifying or qualifying that statement by saying at the time or during this time period when it was requested, just to be clear. I think, so my goal is not like, let's throw the light plant under the bus or make them look bad. I think the point is we want to take this report and grow from it and do something with it. And if whoever picks it up, if it's not the solar implementation task force, we want the group to understand what the obstacles that are today. And if those aren't obstacles anymore, then it's good to explain why we got where we are and why things didn't happen. I think that's totally reasonable to include in there. And I don't think Mary's wrong for asking for it. But I think that without any of the context or clarification, somebody, lacking that, who's not going to watch every single meeting it's on YouTube, is going to say, well, let's dig into this and figure out what the problem is here. But if that was a problem in the past, I don't know, even if it's just a few words to say during the period of whatever to whatever, the light plant didn't get this feasibility done or something.
Just bracket it a little bit, so you're not left with the impression that the light plant is still
Unable to
Right,
do
yeah,
this.
unable
Yeah.
to do it, right?
Well, even,
Okay. You got the message?
well, it's expected by the end of May. So,
What?
yeah,
You-
the
you could-
feasibility is
right.
expected by the end of
And
May.
you could
but
also
we
put
just
that in
visited.
there.
Yeah, you
Right,
could
I think
say,
you should
you know,
say it,
Well, was unable to get for town meeting, we do anticipate it by,
Being completed by
Right,
the end of
May,
May.
by May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
I really do mean it then. You're the first, breath of fresh air at director level we've had and since we started this committee, so. Yeah,
What if you just said that the light plant didn't begin the technical feasibility analysis until January or February, not in time for, this year's town meeting? Even though it was requested in October, the light plant didn't begin procuring the services for that until.
But it still leaves the question on the table, why not? Why didn't they? If you're saying we requested it in October and it didn't get going until January, this seems to leave the open question of, okay, why?
Yeah, but we
I don't
don't, do you know the answer? I don't know the answer.
We don't know the
Right.
answer. He's gone.
So we can't put it in there.
Well, we sort of know the answer because there was nothing produced out of all that Kearsarge.
Yeah, all those
Well, like
Kearsarge
Kearsarge,
updates.
whatever, I don't
There's
know
not
what the word
a
is.
shred of paperwork that
So-
we can.
So
point to.
nothing happened and it was just a lot of BS, so.
But one of your points is, these are two active sites. It'd be good to know that feasibility report.
That's right.
Should be in hand by the time
That's
someone
right.
reads this.
Absolutely,
Yes,
yeah,
it will.
right,
So
Yeah.
therefore, that even makes it more viable.
Yeah,
right.
Good, we'll clean that up.
okay.
We'll get that to looking sharp and taking you guys off the hook.
I'm
Well,
trying to
I
look
do
to
think your footnote clarifies,
Yep,
kind of the time frame if people get that far, because it's an end note, not a
They will.
footnote. So
You think the footnote should be right underneath the text?
Yeah.
Right along, as we go right along with the document or what?
Don't get me going on that.
Right.
I didn't want to do these footnotes that describe why we didn't
Yeah.
get stuff done.
So that people wouldn't read them,
And I put them at the end so that people wouldn't
so
read
that
them.
people wouldn't know.
Well, I didn't want people focusing on why things didn't get done. So I put them at the
What
end.
should they do next?
Yeah,
They should
exactly. I
take
want
these
to
two
focus
sites,
on the go
take this
forward.
feasibility
I
study and
want to
move.
focus on the go forward.
Yeah.
That's that. I
Okay,
didn't
we're
want-
good, we're good.
All right,
I think we're
anyway.
good now.
Another
Yeah.
bend, next.
okay.
So the paragraph that says also one of the disappointing aspects of the task force effort been able to gain closure,
Right.
that paragraph, which is the third paragraph in findings,
Yep.
is that paragraph then okay?
That's
The
good.
only thing,
that's
I would
fine.
just correct the 4 megawatts to 4.95, because in Jason's report,
Yep,
it's
so-
4.9. Is it 9.5?
Where's this?
So at the very end, you say total capacity of 4 megawatts.
Right.
You're talking about
Is that
privately
true? Up
owned,
to
well,
4.9?
that's what Jason had in his presentation.
Okay.
I'm not working with Jason's stuff.
No,
No,
but
no,
it's
it's a
represent the
fact.
fact,
I
right?
It's a
like, I
fact.
don't know where you got the
Yeah.
4
Where?
megawatts
What?
of
This is
The
the
last sentence.
very last
Very
sentence. It
last
says,
sentence.
says 4
privately
megawatts.
owned solar continues to grow and already reached a total capacity of 4 megawatts. I'm like,
Oh, okay, now where's
Just
that
use
now? I
the-
can't,
Jason, in your presentation, I believe it was.
It's in the
4.95.
disappointment paragraph, the very
Yep.
last thing, it says. In addition, wait.
Right.
No, it says importantly, privately owned.
Hold on,
It's
same
above
place.
it.
You're in the wrong
Sentence
page.
right
where?
Um,
Which paragraph? We're jumping around here.
No, I
Hold
thought,
on.
no, it's right here. See this section? This is what I'm talking about right here. So I don't know where that is, so. It's This is the paragraph we were just talking about, right? It's this right here, so,
You're at least 1 or 2 pages forward from where you are, Charlie.
Oh, this,
Oh, here we
this
are.
formula,
yeah.
It should be what?
4.95.
I'm gonna just say about 5.
Yeah, you can say about 5.
Yeah, okay, 5, yeah, that's close.
4.967. Okay,
5.
Dean, we're not sharing the report still. I have it up on the
Oh, I
side.
know,
but for
I'm
people-
sorry. Let me get back to that. Hold on. I gotta go
Yeah,
back.
no
so
worries
now
for the
we're,
public to make
now
sure
we're
they
at
can
the
see.
paragraph, the disappointment is offset by the good news. Okay, so
And I've been disabled from sharing because that's why it went away, because the host.
are we
has
good?
taken away
Are we
my-
good with this?
You've taken away my share capability.
Oh.
Oh, that's right, we're
So
not
you-
showing
you
the
can either
stuff.
See Jason, or you can
Can
see
you
it.
put, can you
Yeah,
put the share back up there?
Maybe that's,
Maybe there's a restriction between.
Yeah.
like either you can
Yeah.
see people or you, I don't know.
Interesting.
So you can't share?
I can't share. You took it away from me. That's why it went away. Now you
Well, all right, for
Okay.
those that can see it, let's,
Okay, I got it back. We're good.
this didn't change from the previous version,
Yeah, I
so
didn't, I'm fine.
we're good?
And we're
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else here?
Nope.
All right.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, then I got the value
Value
proposition,
proposition.
which is something I wrote a while back. I said, well, why are we doing any of this anyway? So I
We
tried
reviewed
to,
Some of this already, yep,
you,
Yep.
you're good with that?
We're all fine with that?
yep.
Okay. Now we're on summary of findings. F items or findings, Rs are recommendations.
Mhm.
And this is where we get into basically saying who has this monkey,
Mhm.
each of the monkeys.
Yeah.
All right, can you take out the text that says preparation for final report and just say
Well,
this is,
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
Yeah.
to just go.
I don't know why that has that in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Are we good with F1 then?
Yeah. Do people know what recs are if they're reading this? Do we need to spell out recs for the first time?
That is probably a good point, like that's another.
Just do it
piece
the
of-
first time.
What?
The
Yeah.
rec, renewable energy credit, and then parentheses.
You might
rec.
put it in your little. summary.
Oh, yeah.
Rec is a pretty fundamental concept.
Okay, no,
Yeah,
but you don't really
but-
go into it
But
here.
not for
I don't think
CLP,
you
is
have
it?
to.
What's that?
No, we
No,
don't, we
No, I
don't, we don't
Maybe
need
just
recs.
spell it out so somebody
Yeah.
knows what it
Yeah,
is.
because they would have heard
And
of
then-
it before, yeah.
Yeah, and then just parentheses
Yeah.
rec. And then, because you reference it later.
Well,
Well-
it ends up in our pricing conversation
People
later.
could
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
hey,
but-
what's a
but
rec?
As long as you
Yeah.
use REC, it's fine.
We have to really say what a rec is. That's
Well,
like a
that's
whole
my point.
page.
Again.
No,
The whole
it's
page.
renewable energy credit.
Renewable
just-
energy
Oh,
credit,
oh,
so
okay.
rec,
Yeah,
Right, because
That's
you
all.
use, then you can use rec later, which you already did, so.
Renewable energy credit, parens, recs, and rec, and then
Yeah.
you're on your way from then on.
Yeah.
Okay, now rooftop best fits the behind the meter model. We had a lot of trouble with this last time we met. And this is,
can I suggest one slight addition? I think it's in your second sentence where you say, however, when repositioned as behind the meter, rooftop becomes financially feasible. I was gonna suggest for any town or private entity which buys power from CMLP at the higher retail rates, thus improving the owner's cost avoidance, just like who is using behind the meter in the context?
you don't think that behind this, if we just add the word CMLP, given the higher CMLP retail rate, rooftop becomes financially feasible, given the higher CMLP retail rate, using the calculation of the owner's cost
Yeah,
avoidance.
I think that.
That says it.
But when we talked about Beatty and others,
Mhm.
these
that's what that
are,
means.
we're looking at town-owned solar sites, right? That's the
But it's the
context.
same calculation for
Same
both the town
calculation.
or a private entity.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the
or a
same.
corporate entity, it's the same calculation.
For the eventual cost of the
Right.
construction, right? But the payback is different for
Same.
those two
No,
entities.
Right,
it's
but
same.
it's, the reference is the retail rate, that's
The
the
retail
tracking.
rate,
Retail
Right,
rate
and
is,
that's what he
retail rate,
references.
BD pays retail
Right.
rate.
right, which
Yeah.
is 20 cents, right? Compared to what we're driving our analysis for CMLP
11, right.
is 11.
Right,
But we've explained that in here.
Right, what I'm saying is that is there any, when you say behind the meter, you're saying we're not doing it because it doesn't make any financial sense for us using the 11 cents.
CMLP, yeah,
Is there anyone else in the town which may consider behind the meter as an implementation that this report is addressing? BD,
And-
school, anybody else that
Sure.
isn't under
Yeah.
different,
Everybody has the same problem,
It's the same, it's the
Yeah.
same
Same
cost
issue.
avoidance. I'm not,
right? But
same issue.
Yeah, you have that looked up on the web.
But so when you say that, let's have, the anybody replacing their roof, right? And we're saying, okay, it doesn't make sense to add it to an old roof. But when you replace the roof, you might have
Opportunity.
an opportunity.
You might,
You
might.
So,
But what I'm trying to get at is there are other town entities that are not getting, that their payback is gonna be slightly different because of the rate they're paying. Do we need to highlight that anywhere in here?
why would they pay a different rate?
Why is the school paying 20 cents?
Everybody pays
a
the same.
retail rate.
Everybody
They're
pays the
paying-
same.
They're probably paying something off the
But,
rate
okay.
chart that's not R1 because.
Well,
they're
there's,
paying
there's,
some other
there's,
thing with
they're
the bill
different
chart.
by
Okay,
size.
So what you're saying is every town entity, any building here is paying retail rate?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I know.
yes.
Thanks, that's fine.
So
I was
did have,
confused.
I
I thought
did
there were
have,
certain entities that
They've got some kind of wholesale,
the CMLP roofs or
A
other
deal.
things.
There's no deals.
there's no deals.
Okay, that's
No
fine.
deals.
Yep, that's fine.
so the only thing that I wanted to add here, this is very clear, it's about new construction, but to the point about a roof replacement, I know this is what I was on last month. Like, this doesn't really speak to a recommendation around evaluating feasibility during a roof replacement. And so I don't know if that's.
I
a
know
sentence we
that,
could put in here.
yeah.
Like, cause that's CMLP.
I know that
Right.
Mary.
No,
also
no, no,
mentioned
No, no,
no,
no,
she's-
wait a second. So just speak to the feasibility, the roof, if someone's doing a roof replacement,
They
should
should,
we recommend they should evaluate? Solar?
they should evaluate solar as
That-
part
yeah.
of their roof replacement project.
So I think we should have a sentence that says that in here. I don't know if it's a recommendation, maybe it's a recommendation. It doesn't have to be a policy.
I put that in one, I might have
I
You
think
might
it
have
should-
stuck
it
that
might
in
have got-
something else that I
I
Might have
was,
gotten cut.
yeah, I think it got cut. I know we talked about
no,
it.
I agree, I agree with it, yeah.
but- Okay,
Well, let's see.
I couldn't find it, but I'm like. I was
You
comparing
could put a
documents.
2.2, 2.21
3
or
years.
something like between the two things that are both
Yeah.
recommendations here, you could say. In the course of doing roof replacements on existing,
Yeah,
town buildings. Solar should be evaluated for its feasibility in
Yeah.
that situation. Like, it makes total sense that,
Actually, the only action items were that the select board was to develop a policy.
Yeah.
That's recommendation 2.1. Recommendation 2.2 is to develop communications. To author, to understand that
No,
CMLP will authorize
Maybe
behind the
it's-
meter system,
yeah,
including
right.
clear policies. Doesn't say anything about whether it's
Well,
one type or the other.
well, that's okay.
Yeah,
It says,
that's okay.
it says to a policy to require solar arrays on the roofs of all new
right.
town buildings. So they could be required on the roof
Oh,
of all
right,
new
yeah,
town
yeah,
buildings,
yeah.
school and
Right.
building, or you could say
Right.
to evaluate the feasibility
Yeah.
during roof replacements of
Replacements.
existing
Yeah,
buildings,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
that's
makes
good.
sense.
something like
But,
that.
Yeah,
well,
yeah, that makes
Extend that
sense.
policy
Okay.
so that it's
Feasibility.
covering new buildings are required and existing buildings, you're required to evaluate
Yeah.
the
When-
feasibility, the financial feasibility.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just extend it.
And Jason, I have a question for you on R 2.2. Would it be a reasonable, would it be a reasonable requirement that the CMLP's interconnect agreement, you already have this idea that storage might be required if your array is over a certain scale. Somebody, who's got their mic on? Anyway, I don't know what that is. But I added a clause to this, which is that in that interconnect negotiation, you might offer an alternative, which is that the CMLP has the right to curtail, the solar from the site. As an alternative to requiring them to put up a battery, you have a right to turn them off in the event that you want to.
We don't need to put that in here.
What's in there? That's what I was asking about it.
You were asking Jason about it. right?
I'm asking about it.
Right.
Like, is that something that we
You
could?
mean to say no?
No, but to modify the the
The-
agreement.
Right now, the interconnection of a large scale solar would involve discussing a battery and being required to put a battery on the premise. An alternative for that might be that the interconnect agreement requires that the light plant has rights to curtail if,
Right.
in the event of overproduction. So there's two ways. One,
Yeah.
probably much more expensive for the site operator
Right.
to have to build a battery
Battery, yep.
than to say, yeah, if you really need to, you can turn it off.
Yeah.
Okay, so this says including clear policies and interconnect agreement rules for commercial and institutional segment, including responsibility for the provision of storage support and or CMLP rights to curtail production.
That's right. So all I'm
Well,
doing.
doesn't that say
No,
it?
it does. It
It does.
absolutely says it. I'm asking Jason if that's an
Yeah.
appropriate thing for us. to be
Oh, you're asking
putting
if
in
this is,
here.
if this is a good, if this
That's
is
all.
okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
I'm sure Jason read it.
On its surface, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Laura, do you want to weigh in on the implications of that?
Oh, I am unmuted, okay. Yeah, the only thing I'm not sure about here is, I know we have done this for a handful of customers. It's not clear to me what technology we're using to affect this curtailment and how labor intensive it is, and whether or not we could extend that to a larger group of people, like just anybody who shows up, we have the right, they could choose the curtailment versus the battery. I think when we get the SCADA system, we may have some more capabilities there. So my only pause here, Dean, would be to wonder whether or not we can like flip the switches all at the right time, right? That we need to easily.
Right, so,
Why don't we cross that out?
Yeah.
Just cross
Or
out the
just say,
curtail
or-
stuff.
No,
No, I would-
Or offers,
or I'd leave it in there as a
Leave it in
future
there.
opportunity,
Yeah, I-
but it isn't something you have to
Yeah.
implement.
Yeah.
But the flip side of that question then, Laura, is how are you requiring the site to use its
The
battery?
right,
Are you in a position to tell them, look, you need to store this now, we don't want it
You need
flowing
to empty it
in?
now and you need to use it now.
How does that
Or who's gonna do the batteries? Or is the town gonna do the batteries and we're
no,
gonna?
this
No,
is
no, no,
private,
this is
so-
behind the meter.
This is for
Yeah.
behind the.
That's
meter.
okay. It's
Well-
hey, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. You could say, we're going to simply authorize additional solar on rooftops and additional big projects to the extent that we have the batteries squared away and installed. And we're responsible for batteries. You can do your solar. If we tell you that you can do it, given that we have headroom.
That's one way to solve it, but the way the interconnect agreement works now is we tell them they need to install the battery themselves.
At their.
Right, but I'm
At
not
their
sure,
cost.
that was what I was trying to eliminate in this point.
Okay, so you're,
Yeah, I'm saying, well, hey, I mean, I'm only a guy that listens. I heard 15 megawatts of batteries so that we could grow our in-town solar. Now we're saying they gotta put the solar in? This is like
The
a
battery.
double wacky,
bad.
double battery. Yeah, this is like a double hit. You're gonna hit the taxpayers or the ratepayers with 15 megawatts, then you're gonna charge anybody that wants to come online, with a solar array with another battery. Don't make a lot of sense to me from basically just the inconsistency of these two items.
Well, one way or another, the interconnection of large scale arrays needs to be a negotiate, it's
Right.
not just, I have 10 kilowatts, I'm gonna put
I'm
my
talking
roof
about the
on.
battery. I'm
I
talking
know,
about the
I
provision.
know, but if somebody wants to bring on a large amount of solar.
You can
And
say, you can say no.
okay, time out. We say we put the 15 megawatt battery up. And then there's a lot of growth of private solar. All right, and now you're hitting a point where, okay, we can manage that private solar, but we can't manage this next complex. You're putting up an apartment building or you're doing something
So,
and you want to put it up. Now, what's the interconnect agreement?
no, so you say the interconnect agreement is
You can't connect.
you can't
Okay,
connect.
Connect.
No, the interconnect agreement, put that aside. The light plant should have veto power over anybody coming on, you know, with
Okay.
additional capacity.
Okay,
If they're
Based on their capability to support that capacity. And what I thought we were agreeing to was, we were gonna provide the battery support to bring on the additional.
well, we seem to
We're
have
gonna
stepped
install
into
it.
that with the,
Well,
with the current article,
we're gonna install it and they will come.
and they will come.
They will
That's
come.
right.
We're gonna do all this good stuff and they will come. So that was my understanding. Now, if that's not what we're doing here, then, you know, we gotta clean this up.
Well, it's,
Well, we asked Jason.
Regardless, I think we need to clean it up.
The threshold of when you have to get battery is gonna
Right.
change, it would be raised
And I
substantially.
think this is a subtle way to put this in there, so that there's language that says curtailment's out there.
yeah.
And
we
again,
might
if it's
curtail
not
you.
managed,
Yeah,
one of the options through the interconnect, and if they don't connect, we don't care.
yeah, they don't come
Right,
in. then
right,
it's
so
fine.
the only way we can get this into a behind the meter is, we've already said that we want you to have a battery. But, you know, but the option of saying that's gonna get really expensive,
No,
And-
we haven't said we want you to have a battery.
no, the interconnect right now,
Oh,
Right now,
internet says that a private entity out there who wants to interconnect because they feel that they're gonna have excess energy and they want us to absorb it. The CMLP is saying, hang on a second, we want you to put a battery in to curtail how you're gonna do that because we can't accept it just now. I like the idea if I was a developer, I would like the idea to say that I will let CMLP cut me off if I'm gonna flow
Right.
backwards, right?
Yeah.
That's it, that's it.
So let's just leave it in there.
Leave it
It's
in.
fine. Leave it in
yeah,
there.
but still haven't addressed the requirement for the battery. Of the private people buying batteries as a precondition of getting on
So,
the
That's
system.
so we
That's
could,
already
we
in there,
could
sorry.
say in this clause, Charlie, we could say, including the potential responsibility
yeah.
Right,
for the provision of solar. For storage support and or CMLP rights. So there's a potential responsibility for you to provide storage or for CMLP to be allowed to curtail. Cause it's a step function for CMLP to put up these big batteries. And there's probably gonna be some future moment when we're now in this place where we're either gonna deny you, or you have to put storage, or you're gonna have to allow us to curtail before we take our next step function and build more battery.
and
So,
every one of those interconnects is based on a finite situation at the time of interconnect.
that's right.
But-
Jason, still there?
There should be a way to say, these circumstances may change and we may want that ability to
Yeah.
He is?
curtail.
Well, let's ask Jason, what was the intent
Yeah.
of the comments around, you know, this investment in these batteries, enables us to move forward with community solar?
Well, so I think if you look at the-
Large scale institutional solar.
If you look at the situation that we have today, we have WR Grace with 5.4 megawatts of DC solar. And if that were gonna go in today, just like the work that was originally proposed for the $9.3 million of solar, there was going to be a battery because we recognize that we don't want to add large amounts of solar on the network without a battery. So the big battery that we're getting is really something that probably should have been done when the WR Grace site went in the first place. It's also something that was in the strategic plan for a long time, that's in the climate action plan. So I think it's something that people have always been planning on doing for resilience, for peak shaving, for making sure that the small solar, the residential and the small little, under 50 kW systems were not going to create any problems on the distribution grid. So that to me is just a completely separate issue. But when you talk about adding a megawatt or 2 megawatts of solar around town, that's when I think that you're right. You have to do something to protect the integrity of the grid. And so there are different options, whether it's a battery or curtailment. I think Laura raises a good point, which is to say, if there are 30 people that have big batteries or big solar installations and using 30 different systems, and we come into that critical time where we need to curtail, is it 30 phone calls? Is it 30 systems we log into? Like, how do we make sure that that is actually happening? Are they agreements that, there are systems in place to notify people when we anticipate a peak load? So in the morning, there's things to figure out, but there just needs to be a mechanism so that the whole town doesn't go dark as a result of this situation.
But don't the rules relative to what I need to do to proceed with my own, 2 megawatt installation or 1 megawatt installation. Don't the rules need to be clear up front as to whether you are going to be required to balance your system with a battery of a certain size?
Yeah, I mean, the interconnection agreement and details are on the website, so people
So
who are
that
interested in.
that wouldn't change then, would it?
Well, I mean, I think that that threshold for when you need a battery, the size of the battery, I think those things are based on what the network allows. And I would just imagine, I wasn't here when those things were put into place, but I would imagine that you would periodically look at those, and if there's no longer a need, I mean, if Concord builds an industrial complex that suddenly consumes 10 megawatts of energy at all times, then those requirements might look different than they do today. So as we increase grid scale battery storage or look at other solutions or see a different load profile, I mean, you're going to see this middle school come online with a ton of electrification. Whatever happens with MCI could be developed into something that could create a huge amount of load. So I think that the requirements are dependent on, the real world situation that we have. And so I think the light board would be interested to hear, like, this is no longer a problem, or this is a worse problem. Like, how do we make sure that it doesn't continue to get worse, or it doesn't create a resilience issue? So does that answer your question?
Well, sort of. I think, I think we need to be clear about what we're going to require and what we're not going to require. And if we decide we're not going to require something, that applies to everybody. It's not a sort of, you get the requirement and you don't, even though you have the same situation based on the time of day or the month. So I think, I think you're clear about the 15 megawatt investment does not really address the individual storage requirements of a specific site coming online with, say, a megawatt or 2 megawatts or whatever. That's kind of a separate thing. Although it makes it possible because you're solving the underlying problems that, would have prevented that in the first place. But they still need to follow the interconnect agreement, whatever that is, to put in solar when they make that investment. Did I say that right now?
I think so.
You think so? Did you hear what
I
I
don't know
said?
what he's talking about, but that's okay. If you do, Jason.
Well, what I'm talking about is how you're going to explain to people in the community that they either do or do not require to invest in solar if they're going to build a big array. That needs to be really clear. And, it's like end of topic.
So the fundamental question is, does the light plant push some of its resiliency requirement onto the individual who's trying to connect in? So the
Right.
light plant has a they got a certain domain and it's in a certain balance. You want to connect, you're going to change that balance. Is the light plant going to push the resiliency requirement onto the individual before they're allowed to connect? So they have to either cough up curtailment capability, or they have to build battery that will properly help with the resilience of the wider Concord, system. And that's what this is really addressing.
And every one
That
of those
was said really well.
Context.
Are you comfortable with adding the curtailment piece in there?
Yeah, I am personally.
Okay.
Okay. So, right now, we're taking a big step towards the light plant dealing with the resiliency problem and stabilizing and actually increasing its resiliency capacity. But there will be moments when, in the future, the resiliency is it's at a good balance point, but somebody wants to put a big array on, they may need to soak up some or provide for additional resiliency because they're bringing on basically an unstable resource, and they need to help make sure that that's that's manageable.
Well, do we still need this,
think-
our 2.2 then?
I think we need all of it. I just was asking a question about the last clause about
I'm
curtailment.
just, I'm
I-
just.
No,
I'm
I
going over
like,
it. I'm going over it again. I'm
yeah,
just
I
making
like,
sure.
I like R 2.2. I
Okay,
like it.
I think it's good.
So do I.
we do. Okay, so we don't have to do anything to it.
No, nothing, nothing to be done.
Oh,
We're just
okay.
asking about
An opinion.
whether the CMLP would like to see rights to curtail, and then we got into this
Yeah,
wider conversation.
Okay.
So it's
Oh,
fine.
oh,
all right.
All right.
Good.
So
All right.
canopies.
Canopies.
Feasible, that's a
Okay,
fine.
now we're getting into our sites,
Right,
Not cost effective, yeah.
landfill.
So can we go back, the Burke land, just in the intro, I just wanna just talk about this one. So
Yep.
we were talking about it in Mandalia,
yep,
and then we put Burke in, right?
Yep.
And I know you talked about it last week and it just went right over my head. It's a big chunk of land.
it is.
I did go look at the GIS. It looks like it's wetland. Or it's got this
No.
green stuff on it,
On the
which I don't
edge.
know if that's well, it looks like it's about
So,
75% of what you were proposing.
I'll say, Dean, did you see my email on this about the threatened species and endangered species?
I did,
Maybe
and
that's-
there's text in the detail
Yeah,
that
you
says
said
we're
that.
gonna have to go through a process there. That there's a
Okay.
process of applying to the natural heritage, whatever, ESP,
Okay.
whatever, NHESP or whatever,
Okay.
I've forgotten exactly what the acronym is. You apply to them, you say, we're expecting to do this. They make a ruling of whether or not you are in effect executing a taking of habitat. And they can
Okay.
come back and say it's a no-take situation or it is a
Okay.
taking. And if it's a taking, then you really can't do your project or
Right.
your project
Well-
is constrained.
Right,
We would have to make that, go through that process.
and I saw the
and-
farmer did already, which.
Well,
I
the
mean,
farmer's
they
tilling
will
up the
take-
land, so he's,
So I'm like, if you got
so
away with it. or something,
my
Okay.
sentence in the report that I added was something along the lines of, we're gonna go through that process. It is unlikely that a set of solar arrays on land that's
Yeah.
not being tilled is more disruptive than being
Yeah,
tilled
yeah,
every year.
yep,
So I
Okay,
fully get it, Gavin, and that's why I kind of investigated and made sure I was addressing that.
and Gavin, is that what that means in the GIS? It had all these green stripes. I just looked at it. It looks like it was conservation or.
No, it's
There was no wetland.
NHESP
Isn't it
National.
marked, isn't it actually marked on the GIS as to whether it's wetland or not?
Yes,
Well, I
it
don't know
is.
if
It's
it's
marked if it's a wetland, it's marked if it has a conservation
And is
restriction.
it
It's not
marked as a
marked as a
wetland? Okay, it's
wetland.
not
It's
marked.
not
I
marked
just
as a
couldn't
wetland.
figure out what,
So-
because it looked like that same green marking was all over the wetland areas, that's all.
Yeah, so the reason why I was just saying, Dean, is that your explanation is fantastic in the text, but in the later on in the details section, the GIS it doesn't show that extra layer of the species. I don't know if you wanted to
That's
include that
right.
because
That's right. I could redraw that. If you want, I could retake
The
that.
species are not in the area that you marked.
they are.
Well,
Yes,
they're
it's like
adjacent, I
separate.
thought.
No, they're in there. I'm sure they are in there.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah,
sure they
I
are.
sent a screenshot in the email that I think is a good one to use if you want to just use that, Dean, where you have to toggle the layer on. And
Yep,
the
I know.
screenshot
I know
that's
how-
currently in the report. Yeah,
Yeah.
the screenshot that's currently in the report doesn't have that layer of endangered or threatened species, those two
Okay.
layers on
I
the section.
can cut
Okay.
that, I can cut that in. It's not a big
Okay,
deal.
perfect.
Okay.
But you don't wanna, what I really was trying to accomplish with these pictures is just give
Perfect.
people like
Yeah.
a physical picture of what it is. But if you start adding all the layers, then you have to say, well,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
yellow
Yeah.
means this
Yeah.
and green means
Yeah.
that and hash marks means conservation
Oh, yeah.
restriction and,
Yeah.
you know,
All we want to
Yeah.
show is where it is.
where it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're really trying to show where it is,
Yeah.
is really the goal.
So
Yeah.
Charlie,
The
in the-
structure of this is to talk about the status of it
Yeah.
in the recommendation area and
Yeah.
to identify its location in the
In the
attachment.
detail area, yeah.
so, Charlie had a couple just edits. So there's that 4.5 megawatt references in here and it should be 5.
Yeah,
And then down below, when you get into the prioritized list, you have
the reason why that changed was you went from 0.5 to
one.
One to
Yeah,
one,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
probably true. That's probably what happened is I said, well, let's take 2 acres of this. Let's take more land.
And then down below, you make reference to 3.1 through 3.4. I think that's supposed to be 4.1 through 4.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
And then I had some recommended rewording in here in the landfill? Because again, it gets into this CMLP delayed technical feasibility thing. So what I was gonna say, just to soften the language a little bit, was to say, it says while solar task force designated the landfill site as a top priority last October, I would just say delays in the technical feasibility analysis precluded bringing this opportunity to.
Yeah, you
I like
could,
that. That's
you could
good.
take out the CMLP delayed.
Yeah, yeah.
Delays in
And you
the,
don't have to say until it was too
This is-
late to
this is-
include,
This
just
is for
say,
Mary.
Yeah.
This is for Mary.
I know, and this is for Jason.
yeah, yeah.
Just-
Get out of the middle of it.
We have
Yeah,
multiple,
right.
So I should drop out, I just drop out until it was too late to include. Do you want me to drop all that out?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and you
would.
could say
I just-
delays in the technical feasibility analysis.
Precluded
for-
bringing,
Precluded.
precluded bringing this
This
up to
opportunity.
2024.
In
Yeah.
2024.
Because we have the footnote that
Yeah,
says
yeah,
what
yeah,
is going on here.
Not to belabor it.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's fine.
We like short reports.
Yeah. And then, I'm moving on.
Okay.
Uh, So under the CCHS drainage basin.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, should we make some reference to the school committee's concern over a future need? And that they. wanted
They didn't come
additional
up with any
time?
future need.
No, I know, but I guess the,
They don't have,
their
they don't have a
concern
future
was-
need.
What
They
they-
just,
hadn't thought
they're
of
just-
what
they're just
they-
making it
They
up.
had a general desire
Right.
to reserve it
for
and
future
not give up the last large space
Right,
on the
right.
campus, but they did
Right.
not,
Because they didn't know what to do there.
they
Because
didn't
they
have
had-
an explicit
need. Right,
future need,
right, but
they wanted to not,
at this, yeah,
not give it to this.
right, but I guess we
So-
could just push them,
Uh,
right,
yeah.
to figure out what their future
Well,
need is.
is that what we're doing in here with this paragraph though?
No, it just speaks to the drainage area, and I'm just.
That's what we're going
Mary's
for, right?
point, but-
Right,
Yeah. It was getting to the barrier question about what the school comment, where you had.
Well, what this
something-
says basically is the CPW that was not
Yeah.
unambiguous, the CPW that
Yeah,
kind of hurt the cause
yes.
by being, you
The
know,
letter we got from the engineer,
by being a little bit, you
Yeah.
know, reluctant to wade into something that might have some conflict associated with it.
right, so
Is that fair?
I think that's.
so, oh, okay.
I mean, the note that we received, did not preclude
Yeah,
doing it,
right.
but said there would probably need to be further, consideration for, scouring and this
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And, and then there's also, you also threw in a line about how solar is
yeah.
formally considered an impervious thing,
Yeah,
and we need to
yeah.
kind of get through that. And because of all the kind of puts the caveats
Yeah.
that were being thrown into that letter, it
Yeah.
created enough of a support system for the schools to just go, oh, we can't do it because this is saying it's impervious, or
We
do it
can't do it because we don't want to, and this backs us up.
Then this backs us up.
So the letter became a
No.
pretext to do nothing.
Right, so
Right,
we need the
But we're still-
CPW to issue some sort of definitive
All right,
rules of
right,
engagement
that's-
for how, if you could do it, how could you do it?
so that you're technically dispositive.
Just technically
You like that?
dispositive.
You like that?
Yeah,
Technically
that's-
Do you like that?
Skipped over it in person.
Technically dispositive. I couldn't think of another way to say it.
Yeah. All right,
That is actually the situation.
Yeah, we need to,
yeah.
um,
Well, this little.
No, the CPW could certainly weigh in.
Yeah,
And,
Has to.
and that would be, it's one of those Mary things, like, this is one of those places where we sort of have people being hesitant to
Yeah.
do something.
Okay, we're getting there. So
Okay.
nothing changes on CCSS drainage
Right.
basin so
no,
far?
nothing changes.
Okay, good.
Yep.
So now we've got the town land in agricultural use.
Right.
I didn't want to put Burke there because nobody knew what it was, so.
But you did talk about it earlier, so it was Burke.
Where did it come up earlier?
It came up earlier.
Oh,
in your
right, yeah, it
recommendation,
did, it
Because
did,
you had to
okay.
delineate.
Yeah,
Oh, I
Got it,
see,
Burke.
town land and agricultural use, because we talked about both the history of the Amendalia
Yeah.
and
yeah.
then moving on to the Burke thing, which is basically in the same area.
In the second sentence, revisiting the use of agricultural land may bring different results if we present a better scaled back plan. Could we add something about voltaics?
No,
You thought about it? Okay.
Oh, agricultural.
thought about that and then said, no, we'll take it out. Because
Okay, no, I
it's
just-
implied, no, it
We've spoken
implies
about it
that,
before, so.
yeah, it implies, like, we
Combined
could
with-
also, the other thing we could do with the drainage basin is say, oh, we could do pollinator
Right,
gardening.
right, right.
underneath it,
We can do salamander.
But yes.
Salamander, you know, daycare.
Whatever,
Just because
so I
we brought
decided
it up
that
before.
that just gets
Yeah.
into like ancillary
Yeah,
conversations that I think. we
Okay.
just-
It was an attempt to
Just
find-
call it a better scaled back
Yeah,
plan,
that's
you know,
fine.
and if a better
The-
plan involves
It's
agricultural, voltaics, fine.
I was there.
The word
Previous plan was wall to wall on all the agricultural land.
I-
Basically was.
Yeah.
We're taking it all. Your property line is here. The arrays go right to here. They're right on the
I
line, in
understand.
the property line.
really.
I only brought it up because we had an earlier
Yeah.
discussion about it. That
Yeah,
was all.
that's fine.
And that site
So
we're good.
selection
We're good.
is away from most residential
Yeah.
areas.
Oh,
right?
it's,
That's-
oh,
that's
absolutely.
completely, yeah.
There's nothing around it. The Heritage Club on one side, Ripley's on the north of it.
Do we need to say that in, well, actually,
No,
we're
it
not
says-
talking
We
about.
said, it's said in here.
Any of
It's
these are gonna be a
implied.
compromise that have to be brought up again.
Well, you know, the person that takes this forward. Has got to make the case that, yeah.
Yeah.
And have a public hearing and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
you can
Right,
talk
yeah.
about
And then
it.
there are my sentences
Yeah,
there
yeah,
about mass
yeah.
wildlife and rare species and regulatory process, and taking of habitat.
All this kind of good
All
stuff,
the
yeah.
good stuff. Yep.
Dispositive.
I didn't use this positive.
Yeah, it's all, it's all
After they
dispositive.
look it up, it'll all.
It's all dispositive.
This paragraph.
See,
is
see,
my
the
contribution.
problem is it's spending too much time on these Trump trials, you see. You start using words like
Okay.
pretext and dispositive.
Yeah.
Ad hominem.
Other, you know, what does the word otherwise mean?
Yeah.
Did you follow that? Otherwise?
No.
The only,
Okay.
is this the first time we mentioned 2229 Main Street?
No,
No,
no, you
Okay.
mentioned it
Mentioned
earlier.
previously.
as
Wondered
well.
if we need to say former nuclear metals site somewhere so people know what that address means.
they know what it is. If they don't, they should go away.
But
This has been in the newspaper.
I'm just.
It's been in public meetings.
Right,
We have, hey, come on.
fine, yeah, just leave it up. Go
Okay.
ahead, move on. Let's get out of here. We only got 10 minutes left for public comments and everything else. So what else
Yeah.
we got in here?
We've got the detailed section, basically.
Wastewater filter beds. Are we good there?
Yeah.
Wastewater filter beds basically means we have nothing. And if the wastewater treatment
We-
plan does not work out, if the integration plan does not work out, we get nothing. That's what this means. Now, you can go back and try to negotiate it, but you know, they feel that he said that they may need that. If they can't pull this off, that they may need that because they're at the limit of what they can do, what they can
Right.
discharge.
Mhm.
So they may need to use it. And that was the same situation 10 years ago.
So
What we're
is the
saying.
sizing that we have just the, for the water, for the filter beds, just fields 2 and 4, or is it the whole site?
The whole site.
Right now, the conversation we had with him was the whole site.
Really?
What his plan is, if the thing with MCI doesn't work
Yeah,
out,
yeah,
is to take any
Split it,
excess
yeah.
capacity and just flood those fields. And then
Okay.
it's just groundwater discharge. Now, before, you were literally flooding them with sewage, it was filter
yeah, yeah,
beds.
yeah.
But now he's got the treatment plan, he'll treat the water, and then he'll send the treated water out onto the fields, and it will just groundwater discharge. And he wants them all.
But he doesn't need it at all if he gets
And if he
MTI.
gets MCI and they renegotiate the way those two things relate to each other, he'll do groundwater discharge and flood some fields over by MCI, and he'll then be allowed to flood into the river
So,
up
Okay.
here.
so let's take this a step further.
Yeah.
When we started saying, okay, well then, you get MCI, then we were gonna go out, then the town's gonna wanna go after this whole five filter bed
Yeah.
parcel thing,
Yeah.
all 5 of them.
Yep.
Oh, no, I think that maybe I wanna park my trucks down there. So it all sort of saying, well, maybe, maybe I don't want to, maybe I'll find some other use other than filter beds.
And
So, it's all very iffy. And then he said, well, why don't you go out there and just build it out in this potato field?
Yeah, it's exactly right. It's like, why don't you guys just go after the agricultural land that's right
Oh, I
next to
know,
these
which is
silver
all
belts?
that protected habitat,
Yeah,
right, for
yeah,
the
whatever.
turtles. that
Well,
place.
beyond the
Yeah.
turtles though,
No, I know.
there is a,
Yeah,
you can go certain distance past the,
yeah, yeah,
and then they said, well, you just have all this. And I,
that's
you know, I
farm
I
also.
thought that was a little bit like Peter Rabbit, Peter Rabbit and the tar ball. You know, would we really wanna do that? Maybe we would,
All right.
not right
Well,
now.
If we crack
Alright.
any piece of agriculture, then,
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't
so
know.
let's keep going.
right.
So we're good with all the site stuff, right?
I had a question on the MCI and the 2229. Did somebody formally request solar on that site when they did the reuse assessment 2 years ago?
Request of what?
The, 2229. So they did a study 2 years ago, right? And they
Right.
did all this reuse and
Right.
solar, and I think battery were on there. Do we have any definitive? Like, who asked for solar on that site and how much? Because if we
Not
could
that I
rec-
know of.
Okay.
I communicated with the chair and
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
we're interested.
Right,
And then
okay.
I sat down with, there's two guys who are working on it. One of them is Feeney, and I've forgotten his
Oh,
first
yeah.
name. Uh,
Rich Bean.
Rich Feeney.
Yeah.
I sat down with him at some get together where everybody was together. And we chatted about it, and he's
Yeah.
like, how much do you need? And I'm like, well, I don't know, we'd like to put 2 megawatts out there if we can, blah, blah. But so it's been mostly just chat, but
Okay,
I
but
think a
no, right.
formal letter
Well,
from me, an
okay.
email.
Well, why don't we
Yeah,
do
that'd be
that? Why don't
good.
we authorize you
Yeah,
and
we
we'll
did.
make a motion?
We did.
Well,
Make a
well,
motion.
now you can just say
No, we did
it's real.
previously.
I think we did.
Oh, we did
We
previously.
did,
Yeah.
and I did
So
send an
we want,
email
and we did
previously.
say, we did
I
say.
did, and I sent an
2
email
megawatts.
previously, but
2
I don't know that
megawatts.
I don't know that it had a number in it. I'll have to go back. and
No,
look at
no,
the
it
email.
should, yeah, it's 2 megawatts and it should have the acreage as well.
So
What is that? That's,
That's probably like 4 to 5 acres, something like.
oh, put
For
5
2
acres.
For 2 megawatts.
5 acres, maybe put 6 acres in there, because you want storage, right?
Yeah, you want storage.
Well,
Okay,
okay.
fine.
You want to,
Start with
and you
solar.
just want to put a note in there saying that the solar task force did communicate their.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
you just said that would be
recommendation.
appropriate, just,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll just change it, we do. Okay,
That's just a stake in the ground, right? That's all that is.
yeah.
Okay, addressing CMLP grid vulnerability.
So my question here was around bus 1 and bus 2. So,
I would prefer not to use these numbers. It just,
Yeah.
Jason pointed out that
Right.
we were upside
Okay.
down before.
I know, well, that's what I.
Just
Well, let's just cross that bus number 2. Let's just cross that out. Why do we care?
the vulnerable bus and just cross it out. Because then you
Because-
go to identify it and there's no point because we have a vulnerable bus and we have a bus that's less vulnerable at the moment.
They're
So
both vulnerable.
They're both
At some
vulnerable.
point, and we don't know how much.
That's all
one
right,
is,
but
okay.
we know that there's one. that's
Well,
more
they
vulnerable.
weren't vulnerable
Well,
as of the previous director.
well, that's what the previous directors that we just.
Well,
But
there's some
it's
stuff in
true.
here that's related. Oh, you can
I'm
develop,
saying,
you can
David said
develop the
we had
landfill
two-
site without storage was the
Right.
policy at that time.
I know, and I'm suspect of everything that's been said by that individual, so I'm like, is 2.5 real? Like, I kind of wanted to ask Jason, like,
Yeah.
is that
It's
still true?
2.5 real.
When we started.
Oh,
our
2.5
solar-
headroom.
Yeah, the headroom is that.
I don't
headroom
think,
there.
We haven't
Yeah.
put that in here though, so.
no, and I'm not asking to, I started to,
So you could
it
just
got
say
me
WR
thinking.
Grace is attached to the vulnerable bus and then you're done.
We're done.
We're,
We're
but
done
are
with
we
this.
putting more? So I guess my question here is, we have the special town meeting warrant that's gonna put 5 megawatts in here. This doesn't recognize that, but our original, this
15
proposal.
megawatts.
well,
They're
it
putting
was
15 megawatt hours.
hours, but
5
5
megawatts.
megawatt
Okay,
battery. But this is separate, it's above and beyond 5, and we're not saying where.
So this is interesting because
Because-
this is now after it's.
Right,
like,
so I'm
this is
thinking-
our-
but this was
We-
our
I
recommendation
get it, I guess, should we say?
before we heard from Jason on what they wanted
So
to
what-
do.
Since we have a new reality, why don't we
Right,
just,
well, just
Take it
why don't we
acknowledge.
just take it out
Take it out.
and put the new reality
Put the new
in,
reality
put
in there,
515.
Because we never evaluated that thing.
It's true, we didn't.
We didn't,
Well, we could
that
just
was
make-
never part of our deliberations. Now, I thought about that. I said, well,
Yeah.
why don't we just roll all their stuff in here? I don't think we can do that.
No, I'm just saying, do we need, first of all, my question was, should we even acknowledge that there is a special town meeting in this report? Does it
Somehow
need
we
to be
have
published?
to
I think we should.
do
And my
something.
separate question was still to to keep this, because if we do add to the landfill, by the way, we do still need probably more battery, because it's on a different bus.
Well,
I still, and I don't wanna
I-
get into the bus thing.
No, but I let, we were recommending
Yes.
2-4 on the vulnerable bus.
To get started.
To get started, what you could
Yeah.
say in parens,
Yeah.
is the light plant has
Independently.
taken the action
Yeah,
to install a more robust solution at 5:15 on that bus.
That's where it says under footnote 6, which is now
Okay.
way in the back,
Yeah.
hidden,
Yeah, okay.
hidden in the
but
back.
just for the record, we weren't
It
recommending putting it on
increased
that
by
bus.
CMLP to 5 megawatts
Okay.
/ 15 megawatt hours is footnote.
No,
6, we're at 6. Oh, so that is lighting, which is.
Yeah,
really
Steve,
true.
we should remove these.
Increase.
Maybe
Just
this
remove the
Yeah.
restriction, release the Kraken.
really surprising. Well, one of the possibilities here is we can take that off being a footnote
yeah,
and
I
have it
would,
right in the text.
yeah, I would.
Rather than
for
have
sure.
it down as a footnote.
Yeah.
What if we do that? What if we take it out as a footnote and make it like a sentence in the text? The CMLP has moved forward with a larger scale alternative,
Okay,
5:15, rather than a footnote.
But ours, the one that we proposed.
Sorry for
wasn't-
scrolling all around. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to go back.
no,
and
this is
forth
good,
with
we're
it.
good.
No, but anybody who's trying to watch it on the screen is going to dizzy.
Oh.
They're going
All right.
dizzy. Controllers, battery cycle.
I literally didn't know
Rest
what
is
to
the
do.
slide.
I said, well, we haven't ever deliberated on what they proposed.
Right, we didn't, but you could just say
It's fine.
they've decided to take this action.
Yeah, yeah,
We
that's
recommended
good.
this,
It's
they're
fine.
taking this other action.
Okay, but
So intelligent controllers enable charge dispatch cycles, blah, blah, blah. Okay, good.
I think
this
that's,
is all.
So we're
fine.
done.
Peak
The
shaving.
last one, evaluate impact of mitigation measures and adjust approach related to storage, related to,
This is controls.
Related to mitigation of the basic problem of
the finding
of
is.
a messed
vulnerab-
up-
Yeah,
of
the
a
finding is
of a-
addressing vulnerability.
of the
And
vulnerability.
the recommendation is evaluate the mitigation you're doing and rinse, lather, repeat.
Okay.
Keep evaluating.
The
and
batteries, the
adjusting.
controllers.
This has to do with the
controllers,
vulnerability.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
okay, peak shaving and battery storage. Moving right
I
along.
have no problems on it.
I have one recommendation on it.
Yeah.
So I'll say something I've brought up before. So in full transparency, I would like this included as part of the climate action committee so that we have ammunition going forward when we talk to CMLP in the future and when we talk to other committees. I would love to have one-liner sentence in recommendations for either this finding 5 or finding 6. It just says something simple like evaluate innovative low-cost battery storage techniques, such as electric school bus vehicle to grid and virtual power plants. Just to have a one-liner like that, because if we are going to need batteries in the future, let's do it in a low cost where batteries are already potentially going to be on the grid. I would love for CMLP to study that. And when as part of the climate action committee, when I go to the CMLP and make this argument again, or I go to the school committee and I make this argument, I'd love to point to this report and point to this line and say, here's why we want this.
Well, it'd be good to get it memorialized somewhere so that there's a committee who's on record.
Be a footnote?
no, I want the same recommendation.
Yeah,
I want something that says that we're not done, there's new technology, you have to continue to evaluate things as they come up.
Because we don't want to go another 10 years and then have to buy a gigawatt battery or something like that.
If there
the
are other,
next time.
lower cost strategies or options,
continue to evaluate lower cost,
Technology.
distributed battery.
batteries
solution,
or
such-
technologies.
For example, house-based or school
Yeah, right.
bus-based, or even automobile vehicle to grid.
It's hard to get your arms around what that really means, other than
Yeah,
All you're
it's gonna
saying,
be a line
Evaluate
in
technology.
his plan.
Yeah.
That's another thing to do.
well, different kinds
So-
of
but
batteries.
he's,
not
I think
possible.
you,
Yeah.
you
What's
have
the,
to leave
the
yourself.
deliverable?
Your deliverable is to continue to evaluate them and be open to new technologies and new strategies as they come up. Versus saying, we only do, Concord only does battery. and
Well, then we
solar.
should recommend that the
So
CAC does that.
That's
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
It's
we
fine.
absolutely
Did he
do
say
that.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he wants to be able to point to it.
That's it.
Okay, so R 63. Why don't you send
Because-
me a little note on that, Gavin? Just send me a little
Yeah, I
note
can.
saying what your recommendation is and make it specific to the CAC.
Okay. Will do.
Cool.
Sorry.
That's all right. It's all good.
I'm just being cognizant of the fact that we're gonna have to distill this out into a set of things that need to get done. And they need to be assigned to somebody,
That's
and
right.
they need to be
So
written as
he took-
objectives
he
with
took the-
times, schedules
He
and
gave you
stuff
the
like that.
location, he gave you the
Okay.
deliverable in the same
Okay.
sentence, he'll send it to you.
All right,
Yep.
good. Okay, community buy-in and acceptance. What was this all about?
before you-
Oh, this is,
Charlie,
This was,
before you go
uh,
on,
Ask him something.
Yeah.
what?
can you go back?
Yeah,
Yep. How far?
No, sorry, just to F6. So at the top, it says
Yep.
today Concord has not made any investments in storage technology
It's CMS.
to reduce Concord's energy consumption during the ISO peak. And I don't believe that's really quite true.
CMS.
Well, and-
Well,
Because
he
it's
did
CMS.
change that.
wait, you've already bought batteries?
Yeah, they're called electric
Where?
thermal storage heaters. And water
Oh,
tanks.
please, that's not a good one.
Hey, this
Just add
is
the
very
word
similar
utility.
to what Gavin is proposing for batteries in the future. To use batteries that are already out in the field and gather them together from the residential level into some, platform that they can then be dispatched. This is the
You're talking
same
about, you're
concept.
talking about
Thermal
thermal
dispatch.
bricks.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
right. Well,
So
just-
just call it
Charlie, I
utility
don't think you realize we have like 4 megawatts of this stuff.
But
Okay.
just add the word,
utility.
have not made any investments in utility level,
And-
Storage.
Yeah, this is what, that was what we were looking for.
but
These programs also help, decrease our load during the peak and thereby save
Right.
the
Right.
grid from having to build more power plants.
yeah,
So
Why don't we
how
say
would you-
utility grade?
storage,
Battery storage?
And utility scale storage.
yeah,
Utility scale.
scale,
Scale.
Storage. Storage.
Right.
All right.
Okay, so we're good now?
Or maybe
Yes, thank
prior
you.
to the middle school,
I know.
because
You
we,
know,
we spend some money
that's
on
the
that, but
thing,
yeah, it's not
you know,
online.
it's not,
There's a timing issue with the
Right,
report.
yeah,
We're gonna
right.
have this, and the next thing you know, it's gonna be outmoded, because you'll have the
Right.
Yeah,
battery
right,
coming
right.
into the middle school, so it's almost like a sentence that.
Why don't we just cross that whole
Cross off
first
the
thing out?
sentence.
You
We'll
just cross the whole thing
the
out.
sentence,
Yeah.
Cause all it's doing is poking the bear
Yeah.
for no reason.
yeah, cause I'd want you to put something there about.
Okay, we're good. We've crossed that out. That's all done now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Yeah.
So are we
Thank
good
you.
with that? Are we good with F6?
Yeah.
Okay, now, community buy-in and acceptance. I wrote this very specifically to cover the piece in the charge that had to do with overcoming community resistance barriers and all this kind of stuff. So I just said, it's not easy. And that's why we picked very specific targets that we felt had little in the way of potential, I don't know, they were not inflammatory, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Proper notifications of public hearings along with concurrence of the select board are going to be required to proceed, and any reasonable objectives need to be reviewed carefully. Overall, Efforts to minimize intrusiveness on views and encroachment onto community areas become paramount. I don't know what else to say.
I think you covered it.
That's
Fine.
fine.
Okay,
fine.
good,
It's just, we
good.
just haven't done any of it.
Yeah, yeah,
So-
exactly.
We haven't what?
We have-
We
we-
haven't done.
Well,
We have-
well, no, because we didn't get to it.
No, I
The
know.
sites that we chose to
Yeah,
pursue
right.
didn't require it.
Right.
So the sites that are on the
Yeah.
radar
Right.
may require,
Yeah.
only one of them really.
Yeah.
which is the-
Yeah.
So then the summary, I don't think is, anything
Just the numbers, right?
too scary in there.
So the
Oh,
only
15?
statement that I would,
Is it, do I have the number wrong?
which one?
5 megawatts?
On land.
Oh, no,
No, 14. 5 and 14 is good.
yeah, yeah. In that life cycle one, in the, I went down. to
Yes.
read. There's a statement here that pursuing ground mounted solar without burdening CMLP with new debt. I don't know that that's a correct statement, because if CMLP's got to do an investment, it's likely to include debt. It might be, have a positive.
Oh,
return. But it's not
well,
that
that isn't correct. You're
Yeah,
right,
Yeah, I don't
right.
think
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
the rate
With new
payers, it's
debt,
really
new
about,
debt that cannot be offset with revenue.
well, ground mounted solar without burdening, how about CMLP tax rate payers?
Yeah.
Because the assumption is that will ultimately become positive. Burdening CMLP,
Why don't we just say burdening the CMLP with new debt that cannot be offset with revenue? We're not, we're,
okay,
we've got
yeah,
it covered,
Yeah.
with that, okay,
okay?
yeah.
I think this settles things. This clears.
Yeah.
Clears things up.
Yeah.
You know, we're not gonna
Yeah.
be putting canopies on the
Yeah. no, no,
CCHS
absolutely.
parking lot.
Not like,
Okay,
Mhm. Yeah,
sadly, it drifts into one page here, you drift.
what?
Oh.
Well, the page break is.
Oh, no, the brakes all need to be fixed. The
Yeah.
brakes all need to be straightened out. This is gonna be PDF.
Right.
Needs to be straightened out. Okay,
Yeah.
we good?
all right, good.
Okay, here's all the,
All right, we are.
well,
at-
this is the thing that
Just to
I,
know where we are. It's 8:39 and we're
Yep.
like, now we're in the middle here.
Yeah.
well, we gotta finish this off and we gotta talk about the management too, because I gotta write that piece up, so you're gonna have to stick around. And people who are waiting to have their say, maybe they can have their say now, continue on. We want to let the public speak now?
No, I think we just carry on, do our best.
There's only one public guy on. Chris Bay.
Anybody?
Chris, hey, Chris, he's doing good out there. I can see he's smiling. He's even
Oh.
listening.
Okay.
So, oh, yeah, just one guy. Won't we let him,
Do you have any
You-
public comment? Because we're gonna continue probably
wanna
for a
stay?
minimum of a half an hour. So if you'd like to voice any concerns for this process or for the work we're doing, just go for it.
No concerns, just simply following along. So I represent the owner of 300 Baker Avenue. We've had a interconnection application out for, well, gosh, we filed the first one over 2.5 years ago. We tried to do a different range of scale of solar, but I come
Yeah.
from a utility background and I fully understand the limitations that the town is facing. So we are looking at doing battery that we pay for and solar. So from your clarifications about what you demand from developers trying to build large systems, fully understand it. I will say that there's opportunities for public-private partnerships in that you could have dual control of that battery, or it
Yeah.
could be built by a landowner and controlled by the MLP. So there are multiple options
Sure.
out there, but
Yep.
I knew this was the summary meeting and was very curious about the outcomes. I will say that on that same site, there's been a ZBA approval of new load in a new multifamily building. So I think that does help in the future. You know, it's not immediate, but there is some additional load
Yeah.
coming. So thank you all for what you've done and look forward to hearing more.
All right, we're
well,
just,
so are you happy with the financials as you roll them up for the battery and for the entire system? For what you're doing?
So we're doing rooftop solar. We are looking at about 750 kW that we can fit on our rooftop, and then backing that up with battery storage. We are actually looking at having a third-party owner purchase that, and we would lease it back from them because the capital cost is so expensive. It it provides us our goals to meet part of the town's goals of the climate action plan. That's what we developed it around, but it's really around the owner's goal of decarbonizing their own real estate, their major real estate owner. So our retail savings is only about 5 to 10% of what we're paying right now for the total energy, because someone else has to own the system and we have to lease it back from them. So, there's things that would help if the town allowed PPAs. It would help. It would help just monetize the real time value of the energy. But overall, I mean, I think I understand the town's limitations around saturation of solar and load impact, and it's not a huge grid to try to balance. So fully understand, and we're finding a way to make it work.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yep, well, we're happy to have
Glad you
you.
joined.
Thanks for joining. Okay.
Of course,
You
thank
know,
you all for your
'cause,
time.
we don't get a big fan base for this kind of work.
That's very encouraging.
It is,
Yeah.
it's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna just plow through.
Okay, so the
details.
financial trade-offs and overall financial context, this was a piece that I kind of abstracted this out of the discussion slides and so forth. That, that Dean has put together that you guys worked on. Basically saying, hey, this is why we don't go for these other modalities, because you can't,
Right.
they don't fit the model.
Yeah.
Again, this is written in the context of CMLP.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
behind the meter. Are we good with that? Yeah,
Yep, I'm good with
Yep.
it.
okay, detail, financial model for solar, these are absolutely brilliant, totally brilliant pieces, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and I have no suggestions.
I'll just say, I actually really did model this, so that's.
Good.
This came
No,
from.
it's
You
great.
had some funny numbers in here, though. You had commas
did.
instead of decimals for
Oh,
a few
did I?
numbers, but I fixed that up.
That would be my vision.
I fixed that up.
Right.
Okay, all right, so we're good with that, right? We're good with that,
And you got the
that's-
V4 of the battery model to do these paragraphs, or battery, or do you use V3?
Okay, detail, ground mount solar opportunities and status.
Okay, good, all right.
Yeah.
Ground mount solar, okay, now we have the maps. Dean figured out a way to slip in this thing with arrows.
Yeah,
So
My only
that
problem is,
the,
can we put like a little red line about where we're gonna put this new?
well, we did on one
Solar.
of them, we probably.
Yeah, I
could do-
know.
well, yeah, but you don't really know where it's gonna go. It's kind of,
Well,
Frankly, that's
Yeah.
very sloped where the gray is there that you.
it
Yeah,
says,
no,
it
is, yeah.
provides, on the drainage basin, it says you can see where that goes. The whole
Yeah.
thing would be filled with solar
I
panels.
know, I thought so, but like, if people look at this, they would think it would be,
What?
to your point, driveway to driveway,
Yeah,
right?
for
But
what?
it's not.
It's just
Like
that,
in the
it's just that,
basin,
it's
it's
just that
just the
little,
oval.
yeah, it's just that
Right?
oval.
I know it, but I don't know if other people know it.
Well, they don't need to know it. This
I can work
is
that up.
so
Yeah.
early
Don't worry
stage. Work what up?
Well,
I can
This little
make
fence is
like a
a
little
big
pink line around the space that we're.
Yeah.
Oh, you wanna put a
Yeah.
pink line around that
Yeah,
little,
around the-
we had a
yeah.
pink line
We
originally.
did. And we
You
can have.
haven't eliminated it.
Okay, well.
No, Gavin's a good guy.
Okay.
I like Gavin.
I'm
Okay,
catching
so
strays here.
we got the other two here, Burke land, and we're good with those?
Okay, so can I actually ask one thing, though, going back to the stormwater drainage basin?
Yes.
The last sentence in there, it says the drainage basin can accommodate half without any additional storage.
Oh,
We
we should
brought
cross that out. That is,
Okay.
additional storage is the previous regime. That's the, I won't say
Okay, you
any more,
dropped
I
it
won't
from
say
the
any
one-
more about that, Jason,
Yeah.
other than it was the previous regime that wasn't requiring that. Okay, good. Moving right along. Are we done with these sections?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Detail
I
route
just
planning
love these
opportunities?
maps, Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
You want to find a shape for where the sewage treatment is too complicated to figure out where you draw the.
No, you don't know where it would go.
Right, so just leave it.
Yeah.
but it's all five,
It's probably all five. I mean, we
'Cause
do
it's-
everything we can there.
Yeah.
because I thought the 2 megawatt, maybe I'm wrong. And Laura, in your report, was the 2 megawatt all five? Or was it just fields 2 and 4? It's a lot.
I have to look that up, Wendy. I don't recall off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
I just wanna make
These
sure.
numbers are,
Right.
we have no
Well,
idea.
2 or 5, 2 or 6 could make a big difference.
Yeah.
That's, I don't.
But we
I don't-
don't know if we're gonna get them. It's
Yeah.
it's 3 years, blah, blah, blah.
No, just, I don't. It's fine.
Okay.
Thanks.
You finished with the footnotes? Okay, so the one unfinished piece of business
So
here
can we
is,
go back to the roof mounted ones? We should add some comments on these. So, what was I saying? And actually one was Booty, Charlie was,
we gotta go over there and do that before we clock
well, I was
out.
gonna say, do you wanna do that? We should, yeah, we should just ping them again and say we should do that.
We should ping them again and say we shouldn't do it?
No, that
No,
we
no,
should
should
meet
do
with
that.
them.
Oh, you wanna meet with them Monday or Tuesday? Maybe we
He's
could.
out of business on Wednesday.
No, yeah, we have to.
Yeah.
Come on,
Walking in
I'm like,
circles then.
forget- Yeah, cause I don't wanna do it without you, so, whenever, but we should do that.
They're in no hurry. They have to redo the roof.
I know,
So
I know, but then we
we
can
can
just say
go,
we
we
did
can
it.
go over and meet with them without having this committee in operation.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm just thinking you might wanna say that we did it in these
Well-
notes, that we simulated it,
Modeled it.
modeled it, that this model was completed.
Yeah.
We don't have to, but, so the other question was on the CMLP roof, on the CMLP, we should note that that was approved already, right? From there wasn't there a town meeting article that approved putting solar on the
Well,
CMLP roof?
yeah, but you know, if people are gonna start looking at this, they're gonna have to go through all this and sort all these things out.
I'm just thinking anything that was relevant to these sites would be helpful,
Well, I don't-
but,
Well, but.
I don't think that's entirely relevant. I don't think it matters. That was something that Chris Whalen did because he just wanted to, you know,
okay,
do an omnibus
All right.
bill that said, I want the pre-approval to do all these. So
Right.
that I can go off and do them on my own without asking
Right.
anybody any more permission. You
Right,
remember
my
that,
only
right?
other-
Yes, I do.
Did I get that right?
It's a big, yes. it's a
Okay.
Very large.
okay, then my only other
Or-
question was, on Harvey Wheeler, it's a slate roof, did we?
Never gonna do it on a slate
I
roof.
know, so I guess my question here, should we even have this on the list?
Well,
It's just, do you want to comment and say slate roof, solar likely on it,
Well,
you know,
solar
not likely,
unlikely.
solar
I
not
think that's-
likely?
well, I don't know if it's unlikely. I would say that I bet it's unlikely.
Okay,
Challenging site.
We already
Yeah,
knocked off.
challenging,
I don't wanna
challenging.
cut into Gavin's.
I'm just,
Gavin.
well, we haven't reviewed any of these roofs this
baby.
way. Yeah.
I can,
We knocked out half of Gavin's stuff.
But the,
I know,
the
it's-
point of this
There's a-
section is, Go ahead,
There's a
Gavin.
notes, sorry, there's a more updated note section that isn't in the screenshot, so I can send that over as well when I'm back on my computer.
Yeah. No,
Cause
you sent over a completed thing, not stuff that I can have to go mess with. So you can take this form and clean it up and straighten out the language. And then we'll do something with that. Is that okay?
Yeah, I can do that.
Gavin.
I just wanna I just wanna take a picture of it, screenshot of it and stick it in here. I don't wanna
don't wanna
have to
analyze.
redo it. I had to do a lot of messing around with this one, so.
Okay, I
let's
can
just-
try to, I'll recreate this, cause I think I had a notes in like a PowerPoint slide for,
Well,
there's just some
and if you think any
info
of
on
these
the
should
roof
be-
replacement.
If you think any of these should be dropped because they're just clearly not feasible, take them out because we don't wanna,
Okay.
you know, mess up expectations that people have. You know, most of these are not really
They're not large,
doable. They're just not. They're
Okay.
just,
but you came up with
Yeah,
3 megawatts.
It's three, in the end, when you get to the bottom line, it's
It's still
3
a lot,
megawatts.
it's a lot.
You know, it's.
So-
I don't
well,
think-
it gives you an idea that if you cycled these through when you redid the buildings, when you built new
Yeah.
buildings.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Does
good,
your,
it's all
does your
good.
conversation with BD include Russ, the facilities director, the town facilities director?
Oh,
We
you know
didn't
what?
get to
Sure.
meet with any, no, he's gonna set it up with the right people.
Okay,
But yeah,
Because
no.
I've had a couple conversations with Russ about a number of things and BD came up and the new roof came up and I mentioned solar and he just kind of mentioned that he had some concerns about solar on the roof there.
Oh,
So
okay.
I just think it might be good to include him in the conversation.
Oh, God, well, they have to
Charlie
include,
has
they
his
have to
reason.
include him. They
Yeah.
have to go to their board with this if they wanna proceed with this.
Yeah, I just
Yeah, so-
meant
so, yeah,
is
the
that
directors would
he
obviously be
sounded like he
included.
had some thoughts, already had some thoughts about it, so it might be worth hearing what those thoughts are as part of whatever conversation you're having with BD over there, that's all, just gonna mention that.
we just did the modeling of it.
Here's the
to show
process,
how it
here's the
would work,
process.
right.
At the level we're operating at, we wanna give them the information we have. They can go worry about all their own politics. This isn't our problem.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah, but we just, I mean, it looks like it would work for them. I mean, it looks positive, so.
We don't wanna try to make it work. We wanna,
It's not
we
true.
wanna
We
give
just-
them the information and they're perfectly capable of taking that's cash flows and we've got plans from the previous, analytic people and with SDA and so forth and so on, so.
I mean, Russ is very sustainability minded, so I'm sure that he's
Good,
interested in considering
Excellent.
that as something, right? He just,
it'd be good for
he
him
just
to
happened
work
to
on
mention off the
all.
cuff.
Oh, good.
We didn't get into any details
Okay,
about
so-
what exactly any concerns might be, but.
So now let's get to
As
the,
part of the
let's get to the
conversation.
meat here of the night. Or,
What? I thought we were
To me.
finishing this spring.
Just finish the
we're gonna
report.
get to the big stuff.
He's got another.
So, what?
I'm just.
All right, the
laughing.
big stuff is to Mary's point, is where do we go from here? I mean, you guys didn't get anything done. What are you gonna do? I mean, we're just, gonna sit around and cry on our beer. Well, that isn't our opinion about this. So, what I think we should do, and what I said earlier, and what everybody said, yeah, that makes sense. I think we should extract out of this all of the objectives, all of the MBO, so to speak, stuff that needs to get done. And basically, lay it out. So which ones are CMLP, which ones are really select board, which ones really therefore are you?
Mhm.
A lot of these things are you. And, well, what's so funny? So, you're gonna have to either sign up to do this stuff or not sign up. And if you don't sign up, I guess, it's gonna be up to people like Mary and Carrie and
And
so
Wendy.
forth. And Wendy,
Well,
decide
it
whether,
is-
gee, is this important enough for us to really say that this ought to be part of your goal sheet? We don't manage your goal sheet. All we can do is make suggestions about what we would like to see put into it. And I don't think that we wouldn't take this and say, hey, Gavin, here you go. I think what we want to do is, you're looking concerned over there.
Well, you're using your word "we" a lot,
Yeah,
but
Yes,
that's
yes,
okay.
you're saying we're right, because we previously thought it was a good idea, and I'm just embellishing what we previously agreed to. So, yeah, I think that we should do that. I think we should put that in here, and I think that next time we get together, we should talk about it, and we should review that and firm it up, because if we don't, this just evaporates. So, I think that, it would be incumbent upon Mary as a select board liaison to carry this forward to Carrie and to get this stuff on your plate, the stuff that should go on your plate. The stuff that should go on the CMLP plate, we'll have that outlined and so forth and so on. I don't know what else to do with this.
Well, we've made a run at it as we've laid out the recommendations. I've tried to,
Yeah,
talk to Charlie about, we need to identify, who's the responsible party. We're making a recommendation to do X. Who does X? So we could easily make that
but
up.
this,
pull that out.
what I'm talking about is even a little bit further, because what I'm saying is, when we say select board, this isn't like the ether. This is, I think we're talking about the resource that we have, we'd like to see, or I'd like to see the resource that we have assigned to do anything in here that is select board, and I'd like to see a outside driver responsible for this, moving this forward as the outside driver, as the program manager, so to speak, for the town, to get this stuff done. Somebody is gonna have to stay on top of the CMLP to get them to complete these feasibility studies, to do all the stuff that we would otherwise be doing if we were continued as a committee. But I think now that we have sorted this out and we defined what needs to get done, and we know where the policies need to be written, we know what the communication stuff that needs to be done and so forth. I think this is easily boxed up and put on someone's table. I don't know what you guys think about this, but I don't think this is something I wanna leave to the imaginations of the select board to kind of sort out by themselves. I think we gotta,
So each one of these recommendations should have an owner on it. The only thing that's signed to the select board.
yeah, but you
is
don't
R21.
net it out. It's not netted out in here.
When you say net it out, what do you mean?
Well,
So you have financial sustainability, solar for CMLP, light board should refocus CMLP to more.
I don't have, you
scope
don't, there's no
development,
outside
solar
driver, and
assets.
there's no project management role in this.
Okay, so that's a
So-
different discussion. That's like,
different,
how do you get this done?
What's I'm talking about?
Alright,
So
well, that's
Talking
not
about
there.
a
So
pro- a
really,
project manager for the whole thing.
who's gonna hold the baton going forward on this effort? is what
who's
we're
gonna
saying.
drive?
You know
it?
about this,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
No, I know, with no
How
owner,
they work.
no way to measure.
with nobody,
Oh,
with nobody keeping all the pieces in one place.
Yeah.
It'll never, none of it will ever happen. None of it. Who's gonna go lead the charge to get the vetting done on the Burke land?
Yeah.
Who's gonna lead the charge to make sure that somebody gets that somebody notifies?
Yeah.
Catches the guy on his horse when he's out here and gives him the notice that we're taking his land and so forth and
That
so
was the
on.
British.
Well,
I know
no,
that
no,
feeling.
I'm
I know,
serious.
yeah, no, but your point is well taken. There has
Yeah,
to be an
it is.
owner
Right.
for actions going forward.
Right.
Is it our position to do that? Or is it the select board to choose the appropriate organization and fund, support, whatever it takes to enable that organization to move forward on these things?
Mary asked us to straighten out and write about and articulate the barriers. This is the
That's-
barrier.
Yeah.
And I think that
But are,
we are the ones that need to articulate what to do about, to articulate what the
Right.
barrier is and what to do about it.
so
And I think we
that,
need-
but that would be a simple.
Simple.
No, it's a paragraph that says, select board, you now have an actionable plan. Please designate who is gonna carry this forward and provide
And we
enough support.
have, and we
to do
have
that.
a sustainability director.
We're reporting to the select board.
Right.
The select board is the deciding entity in this town that decides who's responsible for what, right?
Well,
we can make a
no, no,
recommendation.
no.
Make a
We
recommendation.
can make a recommendation, we made recommendations and everything else.
Just saying, the process is that the select board's the one, we can make a recommendation to.
They
the
can
select
say, no,
board.
no, no, we don't want anybody to manage this, so we don't want
Then just-
Eric involved in
Then
it.
just put a,
They can
sum-
decide that.
yeah, just put a
But
summary.
Our
paragraph.
recommendation, I think, would be,
Yeah.
well, I would recommend that the sustainability director take this.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about this.
I don't think we can take all this.
What?
I don't think we can take all this.
But
Why not?
put the tail on somebody
Yeah,
and then let the
Yeah,
select.
So
Then
then you
Or that
have,
entity decide it's
what
too
about
much.
this could he not take?
well, I mean, some of this stuff is grid vulnerability. That's CMLP.
Well,
Managing
wait,
batteries,
what about grid
okay.
vulnerability? What in the grid vulnerability section is something he can't do?
But I'm just saying,
Well, let's look at it.
Are you gonna
You
have-
brought it up.
No, someone has to have an
install the
umbrella.
battery, put the intelligent controls in.
Well,
Just-
there
you
are
just say you
things
want
that,
One accountable person.
I
It may not
want-
be-
I
Right.
want the select board. I think we can put a recommendation in there that, the Climate Action Committee, in conjunction with CMLP, are charged in our
I think they should have a
recommendation, the
joint
select
goal,
board
right.
should have a directive to those two
Designate.
organizations to carry this work forward and with a deadline.
but I think that you need to project manage the thing.
I know,
Okay,
but I
Well,
pin the tail.
Yeah.
Give it a goal, give it a report
come
that
back
says,
and
here's
say
the
how to do it.
information. You need
Yeah.
to say in, whatever the period is, to
So, yeah, that's
continue
right.
to
So,
report
so,
every 6 months on their progress on solving everything that was put into support.
so if you're the town manager and this is, solar or something that we
Yeah.
need to get done, you want to be able to say to John Doe, hey, John, so how are we doing?
Yeah.
How are we doing? Oh, okay, let me give you a rundown on that. Boom, 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 boom. So at least knowing what the hell's going on would be one
Yeah.
part of it. Well,
Right.
why aren't they doing that? Well, they don't want to. Oh, interesting. Well, maybe we better get on that. I don't know. I don't know what to say about any of this stuff.
No,
And
But
But-
it needs to be, the select board has to set this as a goal.
yeah, as a
For
goal,
the town manager has to
Yeah.
help put a plan together. Some of the schools.
Yeah,
might
Well,
do.
that's right. Mary has to
Right.
take this to the select board
right.
and
Right,
get the
Yeah.
select board to,
say, this is a priority, we
Yep,
must
this
do
is
it
a
this
priority,
year.
and if we want continuing.
right. I think she was a little bit surprised by my comment tonight, but about this, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really her job to take this along with our recommendation about what to do and what needs to get done.
Yeah.
To go to the select board
Right,
and to get that worked out so that Carrie knows what the story is and that she at least knows what we think about
Well,
the
select
fact
board's
that
gonna
we
set
ought
a
to,
goal,
that the
right?
sustainability community
Right.
should take responsibility for this. This is sustainability, isn't it? What is this?
Yeah, I'm,
Is this sustainability?
It is.
Yeah,
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
that's all.
So that's where it goes.
So,
Alan Cathcart's responsible for, you know, the thing that turns around out there and, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
aerates it. Nobody else has to do that in
Yeah.
town. They go to him. Hey, Al, how's it going?
it's going
Right?
around and around.
Yeah, it's right.
Right?
No, so.
What about the potholes, Alan? What's going on?
Yeah,
So,
We're agreeing with you.
Yeah.
Okay,
okay.
I think we just need a little paragraph that articulates,
Okay, I will write that up
yeah.
and we
that's
will
what
go
I'm
over that at the
saying,
next
Because.
thing, when
that-
I
that-
get better, when I come back and.
Right, maybe it's on pain meds, maybe not.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah,
What'd you say?
no, when you're still on
deeply
the,
on the pain
after
meds,
your
we'll
pain
make
meds.
sure that we're doing
No,
it.
Oh,
we're
yeah,
just
yeah.
saying, let's just
How
write
do
it out.
you know I'm not on pain meds right now?
I'm kind of wondering. Let's sum.
Gavin, stop laughing.
Let's put
So,
put
yeah.
it in there. And then
Yeah, I-
basically, because the next stop for this is the select board.
Now,
I agree, sorry, with what Steve said, I like the 6-month reporting, something like that, along those lines, saying, okay, can CMLP report every 6 months to the sustainability director and climate action committee? Something like that, that recommendation for the select board to analyze that.
So it's never forgotten.
or that could also be part of the plan that the project manager should put together, who provides statuses and, you know.
Because once we get this going with the battery, frankly, and we articulate that something's gonna happen, we hope something will happen every year. There should be a mechanism to continually report to the citizens and the ratepayers that this is continuing, because it's been expressed as an interest. It should just continue to grow.
But the project management is not just a reporting job, right?
I know it's not. It's.
That's one thing that they
right.
do.
You can't
Okay.
just say, oh, we're thinking about it, as you said.
Need a cattle prod once in a while.
Yeah. We have received a feasibility study. We have update on Kearsarge. We have,
Someone should be putting
you
a
know,
plan together.
we hear there's a new building coming. We have actively participated
Exactly,
in
exactly.
those
Somebody's looking
things.
out for
We've
this.
commented on BD. We've commented on other things.
Good.
Just keep pushing it.
Okay.
So I certainly see my role as director as being integral to all this, so.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
you're the man.
obviously the committee can make whatever recommendations you want, as specific as you want. But I think regardless of what those recommendations are, I would imagine that my role. Yeah, is gonna be integral to all this,
Yeah.
you know, in terms of. You know, if new town buildings are being planned, you
Yeah.
know, what's happening with that, how are those being planned? You know, I regularly.
Bill, you look like you're ready to say something there.
I regularly coordinate with, you know, CMLP on a lot of different things, you know, so I see my role as being integral to all this and integral to trying to continue to move this forward. So exactly what that is, I can't say I would know yet, but.
But given this, you know, without this pre-work, you wouldn't be able to do that.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric,
No, I
are
mean,
you
I
doing
think that-
solar? Hey, where's the solar?
You
So
know, and-
this is a blueprint for what you need to do and for the stuff that needs to happen.
It's an enabling tool.
Yeah, and I would echo Mary's comments earlier where, you know, although. You know, the committee might be disappointed that specific projects aren't being taken to town meeting. You know, I think there's a lot of great work that's been done to get us where we are now, and I think even the fact that. You know, it moved forward to a special town meeting with a particular article for the battery storage, I think is critical too. I mean, it's something as, you know. Jason and Laura have alluded to earlier, it's something that's been part of the strategic plan of the light plant and. You know, all the efforts that have happened over the last year with this group, even if that's what it leads up to is us getting some utility scale battery storage that can help solve a bunch of our problems, and I think that's terrific too. And then. They said, you know, this also helps to lay out, continuing to move forward to more specific actions.
I will say one thing about the utility scale storage. It didn't exactly go through a heavy vetting process by this committee at least.
Yeah.
So it just got sprung, and it's almost like. I don't know, the $2.3 million bathroom, like where's the beep, you know, and it's like, it just sort of arrives. And we need it, and the town meeting is gonna vote on it. So I don't disagree with it, I think our committee is behind it, but it was a rather quick and process, let's put it
Yeah.
that way.
Well,
But I think the actions that have been identified in here and the priorities that have been identified in here for specific locations. You know, I think is a really good blueprint for moving forward and, you know, using this to take something to town meeting next year. You know, and continue to move forward with that. I mean, there's a lot of work that's been done in a short amount of time through this group, and I think these are good results, and I think it does help to set a good stage for moving forward.
so let's just say one more thing about the disappointment. I'm not disappointed at all.
Well, that's good.
No, I'm not.
I mean, you know,
Are you disappointed?
No, I think we've done a great deal of work. I think that we have moved things along from where they were and greatly increased the knowledge base of all the topics. We've enlivened the subject all the way around. We've proven out some technical feasibility.
And we've taken some things off the table.
Yeah, we've taken,
Take a
we've
look
taken,
at some,
we've taken
yeah.
some red herrings off the table.
And
We've set
we
right-
pointed out some deficiencies that need to
Yeah.
be fixed that are,
Right,
you
so
know.
when someone says, well, I don't want it to go there, how about all those other places? We can say, we've already looked at them, and here's the
Right.
proof. Or-
so I think this
I'll
was,
say on balance, I'm pleased, but I am still disappointed. We did
Yeah.
not get any solar on the
Yeah.
warrant this year. I'm disappointed with
That's
that.
true.
And
If you were-
that's
if
the
you
only
were-
context that I was using that word. Well, I mean, sitting in all these meetings and,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
watching this all
We're looking
evolve,
for a list of
you know,
panels.
I would imagine that everybody would have preferred that a specific solar project had been vetted and put on for. town
As
meeting.
chair, I put a lot of emphasis on achieving a result. And we got this
Yeah.
report, okay,
Right.
but I
Yeah.
put a lot of emphasis on achieving a result
Yeah.
and we didn't get it.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, I remember
You
you
know?
said it early on, you said, I'm worried about us focusing so much on these short-term deals that we don't get to
Well,
see
we
the
just
bigger
have a lot of
picture.
work To do,
Yeah.
we had a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But you know what, I think we spent a lot of good energy trying to get something done.
But, you know, you're damned if you do, damned if you
Wish we
don't.
got it-
we did, we did some nice modeling. we did-
Yeah, but you know what, I really think the landfill will come through. soon.
I am ready for a motion at this point, if there is anybody who's interested. Phil, you're
Phil's
ready to
good,
fall
Phil's good,
asleep?
Phil's
How you
good.
doing?
Phil's good.
Hi,
You wanna make a motion?
Phil, you're all good. Go lay down.
can you hear me? Because up to now,
can.
Yep.
We can hear you
because
fine.
I've been muted all along, which was very frustrating.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
You should have been, if you wanted to, you should have been able to either raise your hand or wave at us. If you needed to
Yeah.
weigh in and Eric
Yeah.
could unmute you. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not an issue. We have to keep everybody who's coming in through Zoom, we have to keep them muted so that we do not allow for these things called
Random.
Zoom bombing.
Yeah.
It's a
You
new
should let-
policy of the town. It's nothing you're doing. It's
Wasn't
just the way-
personal.
We should let Laura provide some closing comments too.
Yeah,
We haven't
yeah.
heard much from Laura.
Yeah.
that's good.
I did get your email, Phil, and yeah, I made sure you weren't muted a little while ago.
Oh.
You get some
nobody
closing
told me.
comments from Laura?
Well,
So,
No, I think
If
Phil
you're
wants to talk.
interested.
yes, I do have something I'd like to share. You all received my draft of what I proposed as a message for the town meeting, which would be distributed, but the essence of it is very simple. We've done a lot of work which poises us to actually have some solar energy. Unfortunately, there's now a long history of committees doing a lot of work and then writing a report, a new committee gets done, and it's a repeating cycle. I think we could break that cycle. This committee, if so empowered by the select board, could have as its goal and achieve it that by the 25 meeting, we would go to the town for a specific project and appropriation for several of the areas that we have found to be ripe for initial installation. And it's like any process. If we're trying to get to 20 megawatts, but not overnight, the hardest thing is to get the process going. And I would love to see other people's view on whether by extending the time and the role of this committee, we should not be the ones who drive the process to the 2025 town meeting with approval of specific projects, which are the ones that we've created ripeness for. Otherwise, some other group will be starting from scratch. And I don't think there's much chance that by meeting of 2025, we'll actually have any projects hit the ground. So I may be the only one who thinks that. I hope not. But we have done the work. We're now poised to actually be the ones who drive the process for the first project. What do other people think?
Well, I'll go first. I'm inclined to fold up our tent, and let the town take our initiative that was set up as a task force and have the town take it on. I'm encouraged by the work that Jason has begun at the light plant on the primary project that we've identified that's on our radar. So I believe that's gonna happen. I have no reason to believe that the town is not going to, and the light plant itself is not gonna complete the mission on that. And so that would get the first project done, Phil, without our help, because the light plant is now in a position to succeed there. And so, I'm kind of along the lines that Charlie articulated. It's time for the town to find a way to responsibly continue to manage this process going forward. Now, that's my comment, but I really am not inclined to waylay the meeting with a long conversation about this, frankly. It's already 9:15. But Phil, I want to thank you for writing that note, but it became moot. That assignment became moot when we decided not to move our article. You're not allowed to just put opinion pieces or informational pieces on the table unless they support a specific article that will be moved. You can't just, even though we're on the warrant, if we decided we're not moving it, we really aren't allowed to just put an informational piece out there. So unfortunately, your work is not going to see the light of day. I'm sorry to let you know that. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
No,
question?
I'll just be brief. I'm
Yeah.
in agreement with your approach too. I think the town should take it at this stage.
Well, I'd like to hear what Jason or Laura has to say. I mean, I think we're on the right track to turn this over to the town and see if we can roll it into the institutional frameworks that we have and make them work. And get our sustainability stuff, goosing up. I think we've got the CMS stuff coming on, and that's huge. We've now got the commitment on the big battery installation that's coming on, and we've settled that. We now know how to deal with the vulnerability. We've got some good sites identified, some feasibility stuff going, and that's happening. We've got, some good interest from the community to build some solar at Baker Avenue and so forth. I think we're cooking. So, I think that the job now is to not drop it. That's the job, and to make sure we have a transition.
And just on a personal note, I'm still gonna be around, and I'm still gonna be pushing the same rock up the same hill. So even if I'm not in a formal capacity as a committee member pushing that rock, as a citizen, I will still be pushing that same rock.
You come over here by yourself?
Well, I don't know that that's a really productive use of my time.
Let's see what Jason has to say. He's got his hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to again echo the other sentiments that we appreciate all the work that everybody's done. I am personally absolutely committed to doing whatever we can to take this report and run with it. I worked similarly with the fiber broadband completion task force, and I can tell you that every month I have a meeting with the broadband manager to go over summary findings of the report to find out what we need to do to continue to work on some of the goals articulated by that group. So I'm familiar with taking the work of a task force and making sure that it continues to grow and see the light of day. My conversations with Carrie and with other CMLP staff have similar results in that we're excited to take this work and move it forward. I mean, it saves staff time and it puts us in a position where we can actually get some of these things over the finish line. So as much as we possibly can, we'll work with Eric, with CAC, with Dean as a citizen, with the FinCom, with the select board,
Dean
to
is the role
continue
of-
to.
the Sisyphus, we call him. Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, obviously, my concern is not as strongly shared as I would have liked. My experience, and I've been a project manager for many years in the past, is somebody has to drive the process. We have the group that could successfully drive the process to the initial projects, at least for 2025 town meeting. Any other group or individuals starting from scratch will not. So to me, it's a lost opportunity because we have the drive, we have the talent, we have the homework done. We've paid our dues. Now, no one in the town will be in as good a position to take it to the next step as we could, but that's my own view.
Good,
Okay.
Laura,
we're good.
Laura, you got any closing remarks?
Wow, heavy weight.
Yeah.
I think Jason and I make a good Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I'm not sure. I can't remember which one was the good one and which one was the bad one, but he's the good one and I'm the bad one. And I'm optimistic. I really appreciate that the task force especially put to bed the idea of the parking canopies and the rooftops, because we would continually, whenever we would propose a ground mount, hear back from people, oh, I don't want it to see it, land use used that way. I want it on the rooftops. Why can't you put it on the rooftops? Well, it's more expensive. Well, so what? We were,
Yeah, well, so what?
we used to face that a lot. And
Holy money.
I'm really glad you took that off the table. I must say, some of the recommendations going forward, it's not clear to me who would be the point person or the project manager, if you will, to take some of these recommendations forward. And I am concerned when I hear something, I think Gavin said something like, he would have CMLP report back to the CAC every 6 months. Well, CMLP is not going to be responsible for doing all these recommendations. For example, the whole idea of whether we're going to allow land that's currently in agricultural use to be used for solar, right? That is something
Not your
it
job.
specifically says that it says, doesn't say the select board, it says the town will notify the abutters and hold a public hearing. Now, I don't know, who that would be. Is Gavin gonna have the select board reporting to him every 6 months on how much
That would
progress
be
they're making
done
on
through Eric.
what? What'd you say, Charlie?
I think it'll be managed through Eric.
Okay, so I'm just saying that I worry a little bit. I like the idea that you guys had these recommendations. It's still not clear to me how we answer Charlie's question, which is who's gonna drive this forward. And if you're saying it's gonna be Eric, then maybe he needs more support from the town manager. Mary said at the beginning of the meeting that she wasn't sure that the town manager had clearly, given Eric direction on exactly what she wanted to see done. I mean, she is his boss, right?
right.
Yep.
Well, you point out
anyway.
the key question. The key question is who manages it and how?
Yeah.
And how does it get done in a way that we aren't tripping over each other?
Yeah.
And where we get these things done. We have staff that we've hired to do this. And, you know, how do we use them is becomes the question, right?
Well, you know, it reminds me, I mean, in the climate action plan that we have, there were some pretty specific stakeholders identified for each metric that they wanted to track and make progress on, right? So why aren't we just trying to move that forward, or do we think that it's all outdated and we have to rewrite one?
Well, I don't think this climate action plan necessarily, you know, works that well for something like this. Because the pieces aren't there. You just have, we need to have 20 megawatts of solar. Oh, okay. You know, this is a big deal. Each one of these things, when you start peeling back the onion, require a tremendous amount of staff work and, you know, development activity and sort of sorting out the institutional boundaries and who's on first and all this kind of stuff. So I still think there's some work to do to figure this out. To figure out the answer to your question of who project manages it, what does that mean?
So how will that get done, Charlie?
Well, how will that get done? How will we get that figured out?
No, how will it get figured out? I don't know who's gonna figure it out. Are you gonna figure it out?
Am I gonna figure it out?
Yeah.
Uh,
You're
I
pretty
mean, I
smart.
would think, so I think what's gonna happen is they're gonna present this report to the select board, right? The select board, just like they did in the case of the fiber broadband completion, is gonna listen to the report and then consider next options. And what they could do is tell the town manager, you know, we're gonna roll this into your goals going forward and make sure that you and your staff are achieving these things in a measurable way. And so then she's gonna delegate those to the light plant director, the sustainability director, and then the select board, if they're the appointing authority for CAC, or I don't know if the town manager is or not, or if there's some is jointly, but regardless, it gets sort of disseminated through and it becomes all of our collective goals. So in my mind, that's how it would work.
I agree with that. I agree with that, but I think on top of that, you need some sort of matrixing of all these things together. Because standing alone with everybody sort of having a piece, the
Right.
pieces can get lost.
They're interdependent,
Yeah, they're interdependent
Anything-
and, you know, you have much more energy when you've got somebody that
a team.
is kind of driving the thing.
One of the things that tonight's meeting confirmed in all our eyes, including mine, is a great deal of knowledge has been accumulated, which is directly relevant to getting the first and second project going. I don't believe it's going to be transferable. And in any system, getting the first project off the ground is the tough one. Then the pattern becomes institutionalized and you can turn it over to whoever the pieces are, but there is no group that could drive the first project as well as we could collectively. If one, we chose to take that on, and two, the select board approved it. But again, that's my own view based on project experience. And the details that we were discussing during the meeting are a depth of knowledge that you just can't transfer.
Well,
It is, you know, we have accumulated a fair amount of understanding
Yep.
here. There's no question about that, Bill. You're absolutely right about that. But hopefully, there's a certain amount of uptake that is enough, that we've put enough on the table, that there's enough there to allow somebody to pick up what we've written and what we're recommending and be able to move forward from there. With that said, I'm gonna ask for a motion here unless we have more to say.
I move.
Okay,
Second.
what are you moving?
I'm just moving.
Okay. I'm
I move
barely.
that we adjourn.
Moving to adjourn.
Okay,
Very much.
do I have a second?
I have second.
Okay, we have a second. Okay, so I'm gonna take a roll call. Phil,
Abstaining.
okay, Gavin,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Wendy,
Aye.
Charlie,
Aye.
and I'm an I, so sorry, Phil, we're out.